Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to discussion, possible actions emanating from
Wait, say that again.
matters emanating.
We have matters emanating from executive session. Can I get a? What do we need?
Okay. So everyone, Miss O'Donnell is chairing the meeting tonight as I had my tonsils out earlier this week and my voice is a little off. But I'd like to make a motion to approve the stipulated agreement 1 regarding student conduct as presented in executive session.
Second.
All those
We got a
motion. I'm gonna say a motion.
motion from Mr. Stolozzi, Mrs. Grant, and a second from Mr. Stolozzi.
All those in favor?
All those in favor? Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed?
Any abstentions?
Any abstentions?
That passes.
That passes.
Okay. Any other matters?
Any other matters?
I'll make a motion to approve the stipulated agreement 2 regarding student conduct as presented in executive session. All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye. Can you repeat who made the motion?
Mrs. Grant made a motion, Mr. Scully seconded it.
And then I'll make a motion to approve the stipulated agreement 3 regarding student conduct as presented in executive session.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Huh?
All those in favor?
All those in favor? Aye.
Opposed?
Any opposed?
That motion passes.
Any stipulated?
That's it.
Got a motion passes.
Yep.
We'll move to student recognition.
Right.
I want you to remember this, because I knew Berlin. When you remember when you were in the data testing position, gotten to know you a little. I like, although I never realized that I was going to go back and forth to that, and that was certainly nice to know. I'm going to read to you an email that reflects that data. Dear Dave, we are pleased to share with you that you're the named Connecticut's inaugural Youth Poet Laureate. You're committed to your active presence in the program's development of all the ways to gift the state and to the world. As part of the announcement, we'd like to film some pre-recorded content to your package that highlights your work and journey to the moment share with you. Poetry, like art, captures the essence of what we are. Feeling emotion. It helps us understand each other. It helps us understand the world around us. After this. Career in law. Is going to be pursuing law. She's finally, she's making some final determinations on the university. We haven't committed quite yet, but wherever she goes and whatever she does, she will certainly be profound, like her poems, be brilliant like our poems. So Jada, Mr. Licky has a certificate for you. And I have a book. I'm sure you know the poem. And I don't know if you know how the poem ends in regards to, for there will always be light if only you're brave enough to see it and only you're brave enough to be it. I wish you, destined for great things as you leave us and graduate this year, to continue being brave enough to be the light that you are. Best wishes, Jada, always.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Totally feel free if you don't want to stay just for a really long meeting.
Okay, we're going to move to public comment. Please step to and you have 3 minutes. We need your name and your address. Thank you.
Andrew Lucina, 195 Stone Fence Road here in Naugatuck. I appreciate the opportunity again to speak in front of you. I know you guys have a really tough job, especially in today's day and age. And, my frustration with some of the behaviors going on in the school system is increasing, And again, I'm not in the schools, but what I hear from, parents, what I see online, it's scary. So what I'm really doing is tonight is I'm calling on this board, Mr. Hess, if you were here, Mr. Montini, and our entire community, and we have to rewrite some of these policies. Now, I heard that you guys might have voted on something tonight in executive session that I might not be aware of. But we need to come together as a community and take some hard stances on some of these behaviors occurring in the school. I have been shared some pretty frightening stuff about what's being posted online, being recorded in schools. I don't understand how we're allowing some of these kids to continue to bring in cell phones into a school in our district. I just don't understand it anymore. You've got a chance, you got a responsibility. But once you cross that line and start recording people, people have privacy. These students have privacy. These educators have privacy rights. We need to come together as a community, all stakeholders, parents included. You are responsible for your students' behavior. Vaping in school, in the bathrooms. I don't know what we do. We suspend these students. You know what they do? They vape at home. We need to come up with some restorative practices that work. Obviously, we have some great students in Naugatuck Public Schools. We have great educators. We have great administrators. But come on. Let's get together and write some policies that kind of end this. Because I'm telling you right now, I've worked in the Waterbury Public Schools. It's turning into that. And that is frightening. It's frightening for the people here in this nice borough, by the river. But I'm telling you right now, I think parents have had enough. And if you'd like, I can share with you City Hill Middle School fights online. I don't think you want me to play that because there's privacy rights going on there too. I think it had 80-something followers. So once again, I appreciate you letting me speak, and I know there's great things going on, and I know you guys are going to have a mass debate tonight, but do me a favor. And with all that discussion, just think about the teaching and learning and safety of our students. I'm sending my girls to City Hill next year. All right? I don't know. Okay? I don't want to say that. I love my town.
Thank you.
Come on. I understand the 3 minutes. I apologize. So once again, just calling on everybody, the mayor, superintendent, the board, I'll work with you. I'll work with you. I've got ideas. I'm not saying I know everything, but maybe they could work. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Jill Swanson, 211 Spencer Street. Last month when I came to the Board of Ed meeting, it's interesting the people that you meet and the things you find out. One thing we found out was about the ESSER money that our schools are getting in our towns across the states. And Naugatuck is getting almost $8 million of ESSER money. The ESSER money is to continue universal and correct wearing of a mask, physical distancing, hand washing and respiratory etiquette, cleaning and maintaining health facilities, diagnosis, screening and testing, vaccination status. My question to you is money more important than our children's health and well-being? I don't feel $8 million is more important than our children. Remember, we all voted you in. We can also vote you out.
Let's be nice. Helene Bosco, 333 Falls Ave. I came here with the intent of unmasking our children. I already knew that they were working. Upon research, I realized Governor Lamont is lifting a mandate statewide, and it will leave it up to the locals to decide. We know there is a lot of money at stake, clauses, and a lot of political terminology, but I urge you all to vote no on the 9-point system. All things fraud, all things lies. Some famous person quoted, "A lie doesn't become the truth and wrong doesn't become the right." Blah, blah, blah. You will all see in the near future the points put in place are crimes against humanity, which will mean you are all actually voting for rules which break Nuremberg codes. Maybe look those up. I also recommend reading the Declaration of Independence and rereading it again to your students, especially the Liberty Clause. I'm almost positive this is the type of government our forefathers warned us about, the one that created a not novel virus and creating panic and compliance, a pandemic, or the coronavirus crisis, as I will call it. A so-called government that destroyed small business, middle business, and made us depend on them along with big pharma, big tech, and the media, of course. While you're doing your research, please check out the definition changes of the words pandemic, epidemic, vaccines, herd immunity, and natural immunity. And then ask yourselves why. A government that strives to create a world where ordinary people will own nothing and be happy by 2030, 8 short years away, which all started with the World Economic Forum. Now they call themselves Davos. Please do your research. Not sure how the grand jury and the court of public opinion will deal with people proven committers of these crimes. God save our souls. A government that created fear so bad that we were injected with experimental poisons that has no proven protection or effectiveness. It is not safe, extremely dangerous, and has been lethal. So within that first month of doing vaccines, by February of 2021, they should have stopped it because that's the law. They want to create full slavery, give us a false illusion. So the definition of natural law, and this is probably going to come up with the grand jury, means, it's a noun, a body of unchanging moral principle is regarded as basis for all human
Thank
conduct.
you. And when you step up to the mic, can you please give your name and your address into the mic?
Jessica Hollister, 54 Margaret Circle. So I'm here for pretty much the same reason most people are here tonight, to talk about the masks and our children. Just a few points I want to make. I don't personally feel that my son is being protected by a mask. If you go to the schools, you watch the kids, their masks aren't on correctly. There's gaps. Obviously, saliva is coming out. They're speaking, they're talking. It's just not stuck to their face, basically, is all I can say. They're not helping anything. They're hindering the kids. My son's in kindergarten. They're learning how to speak. They're learning how to read. They're learning their letter sounds. I don't really see how it's helpful to them to be learning these sounds when you can't see the teacher's face. They're making the ch sound. You have to see their face. When I'm trying to teach my son, obviously I don't have a mask on and he's staring at my face looking, what are you doing with your mouth when you're learning these sounds? It's hindering our children's education. These precautions are being taken. I don't necessarily feel they're great precautions. My son was sick a couple weeks ago. They sent home an at-home test. A month ago, at-home tests weren't reliable. Now I can send in a picture of the test. I could have taken that test. I'm not a dishonest person, so I'm not going to do that. But I easily could have taken that test myself and sent a picture, and they would have no idea. So I could have sent my son to school with COVID. No one would know. These kids are supposed to be developing social skills now. My son's in kindergarten. He's socializing with other kids. I'm being told by my son, multiple other parents, these kids can't even play together at recess when recess is indoors. They're sitting at their desk playing by themselves. And we don't have, people in our lives who have kids his age, so school is where he socializes. He's not able to make friends and socialize with his friends at school if he can't even play with them or conversate with them. My last point is, this isn't about my child, but some kids don't go home to a loving and happy home. They don't go home and see a smile on their parents' face. They're maybe going through something. You don't know what children go home to. School is their safe zone. School is their happy place. They should be able to go to school and see their smiling friends and their smiling teachers. Instead, they're going to school seeing gloomy masks. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong choice. I am 100% pro-choice in this matter, but it should be a choice that we get.
Lisa Eggers, 132 Johnson Street. I'd like to make 2 points. Hopefully I have time. I'd like to follow up with what the first gentleman said. And I want to strongly agree with him and let you know that I had 2 teenagers, 14-year-old and a 15-year-old, depressed children bullied in the school system. I pulled out, found a way to get them into a different school system. They are thriving. They are on the honor roll. One of them was flunking out, got no help, was bullied in the school system. I've come across a lot of good teachers in the school system, but that's where we were. They were depressed. I got them out for a lot of different reasons, and now they are thriving in other school systems. I love Naugatuck. I have another child coming up. I would like to be able to put him, send him to City Hill Middle School or Naugatuck High School and have him thrive. But my other 2 are such good children, and I know you guys, some of you guys know them and know they're good kids. And this is where they're not here. They're not here. They're in other school systems. They're thriving. They're on honor roll. They're on the honor roll now. I'm so proud of them. And I also want to say again, I'm here again to say, please, I always say, please, please, please unmask our kids. But I got to say, just unmask the kids. I mean, there's no reason for a mask anymore. They don't work. They don't work. And they don't like the masks. Nobody wants to wear these masks. I work at a restaurant, a chain restaurant that's all over the world that you've all been at. And we serve food. We don't have to wear a mask. They just said, if you're unvaxxed, if you're vaxxed, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. We're cooking, we're serving, no mask. And when our boss said, corporate said, we don't have to wear a mask anymore, the cheer that went up through that restaurant was loud. I mean, nobody wants to wear these masks. So if we're not wearing, why are we making the kids wear them? They don't want to wear these masks. I think that, Naugatuck made their point when we voted, Aaron and others, that we want to be represented. And these are the people who we chose to represent us. And we have not been heard up until this point. And we want to have our kids back to normal. We want them to have a good experience in school. It's a happy experience in school. We love our kids. We want them to have a healthy, happy, positive time in school about the kids. That's about the kids, not about all this bureaucratic stuff and getting the money and this woke stuff. Just get it out of the schools. Let's get politics out of the schools. Let's get back to just having happy, positive, healthy kids in our schools. These do not work. We know they don't work. It's proven they don't work. I mean, otherwise, we would be wearing them in our restaurant. We don't wear them. As adults who work, we don't wear them. Why am I sending my kid to school in these masks?
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Samantha Beloli, 106 Johnson Street. I have 2 children at Maple Hill. My youngest will be joining them in the fall. I'm here to express my feelings on the mask mandate. As everyone knows, as of 2/28, the governor has decided to remove the mask mandates and leave it up to the school districts. I'm asking that you please give parents the choice in masking. People who feel unsafe have a choice. They have a choice to vaccinate. They have a choice to mask their child or a choice to homeschool them. What choice does a mandate give me? As we all know, surgical and cloth masks do not prevent the spread of COVID. It is actually a proven fact now. If you check any label, the first thing it says is not for medical use. The CDC has made it clear that the recommendation is a properly fitted N95. Now, for one, I know there are not many children, if any, wearing an N95. I also know that there are not many children wearing a surgical or cloth mask correctly. My son goes through numerous masks a day. He comes home and they are all soaking wet. Please tell me, what is the soaking wet mask doing for him or any of the children around him? What is the mask that is sitting under the child's nose because they cannot breathe doing for the others around them? At this point, it becomes common sense. I understand there were mandates and protocols to follow, but now those are all being lifted. Masks have removed any kind of joy from my children's school day. Masks have affected the children mentally, emotionally, and educationally. Every morning, school is a battle. I hear the day is too long in a mask. I can't play with my friends. I'm too hot in a mask. I can't breathe. The beginning of the school year, my son asked me what a cafeteria was and how old was I when my school let me sit in a cafeteria. It's heartbreaking. Why is it that our children can go and play sports such as basketball unmasked on top of each other, but when sitting 6 feet apart in a single desk, they need to remain in a mask? I was fortunate enough to be a student of Mr. Montini's class, his second class at Prospect Street Elementary School. I firsthand saw the joy he brought to school. Nothing was more important than his students. What happened to that? School is no longer a place children want to be, and that is sad. Many students I have talked to over the last few days would not even come today because they are so tired of not being heard. It is time for the Board of Ed to give us back our right of choice. The people of Naugatuck voted for you to be the voice of our children, to stand up for what is best for our children, and not to appease the teachers' union. Statistics show that unvaxxed under 18 and vaxxed under 25 have a 0.00% chance of dying from COVID. No one knows what is best for my child but me. If they were standing in front of you, you wouldn't even know who they were. It is time to move on with life. I would like to leave everyone with a few questions. Do you go out to dinner unmasked? Do you sit at a table closer than 6 feet with other people unmasked? Do you enjoy happy hour unmasked? Do you and your children attend family functions, birthday parties, play dates, go to the store, or any sporting event
Thank you.
unmasked? If you could answer yes to any question, who are you to strip the right from unmasked?
Good evening. My name is Jasmine Was. I live in Naugatuck for almost 17 years now. I have 2 sons. One is 21 years old. He's attending in Naugatuck community program. and Naugatuck High School. He was born autistic. My other son is 6 years old. He's currently attending in Maple Hill School. Throughout the past 2 years, an outbreak of COVID pandemic, Naugatuck Public School have worked collaborating with Naugatuck Valley Health District and our district NARC coordinator to analyze the number of COVID-19 virus. I am here tonight to ask to immediate change for our children. Allowing our children to mask their faces has caused and continue to cause tremendously harm on their physically, emotionally, and mentally. As of the 2 years data that we have right now, it's shown that children remain less of rest. Yet we continue have the bear of disproportionate amount of restriction to our children. When first initiated with the short term, this distribute with necessary as acquired data of the COVID-19 virus. However, we have mainly tools available in 2022 compared to the 2020. And our policy must be lifted because we have this advance after our children experience nearly 2 years of disrupted life. It's time for us to give their child back in childhood back. I'm asking the board tonight as a leaders to their powers and to make the right decision in act to unify the district for all and allow the masking for our children to be choice, to have a choice. Enough is enough. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Galuzzi. I live at 15 Celentano Drive here in Naugatuck. I know a lot of people are here tonight to talk about whether or not we should unmask our kids or not. I have lived in Naugatuck for over 15 years. I graduated from Naugatuck High School. I have 2 kids in Maple Hill, or 1 kid in Maple Hill who is in a special needs program. I can tell you that she has worn a mask this entire time. And that she has made growth in that time frame. So I don't necessarily think that the masks hinder that progress. But I do think that we should, before we make a decision, we should ask the entire community. We should ask our teachers. We should ask, maybe take a survey. There are other communities that are surrounding that are doing surveys for the school, just like we did surveys before that you guys sent out through Parent Square. Send out a survey and see what the community wants. Make it equitable. Not everybody can come to these board meetings. Not everybody can, have the right to speak. I was lucky enough to be able to get out of work to be able to come here, but not everybody's able to do that. I do think that, having masks is horrible. Nobody likes wearing masks. And everybody has their opinion, and I believe in respecting everybody's opinion. But I also think that as a town, we need to hear everybody and collect the data and see what everybody wants. And I think it needs to be not just the community, but we need to hear from the teachers as well, because just like our kids might not have a choice, if we lift the mask mandate without hearing from our teachers, we're not giving them a choice either. So I think to be equitable and to be fair to everybody, I asked that the board put out a survey to the town and to the staff, and let's see what they say, and then make our decision. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sue. I've been a resident here for almost 20 years. I can't talk with this thing on. Wood, Wood. I have 2 kids in 8th grade at City Hill. I'm just going to touch on City Hill real quick. That school needs some help. A lot of problems there. I don't know what you guys are going to do, but there are things that need to be addressed. All the fights. I think a lack of teaching. I don't know what's going on with that. My daughter comes home. Half the time there's not a teacher in the class. The subs come and go. Like, what's going on? I don't understand. I'm just very disappointed with City Hill. Straightforward, hate it. I don't feel like my kids have gotten an education much at all for the last 2 years, really. But anyway, I can go on and on about that. And then with the mask thing, I think that should be a personal choice. If you want to wear it, wear it. If not, whatever. It is causing issues. I think some of these kids are really dealing with some major issues. I think that's why they're acting out. There's just too much. It has to stop. We have to try to get these kids back to normal. They sit in the auditorium 6 chairs apart eating lunch on their lap. Like, what is that? There's no social engagements. That's what we did. I mean, they're not developing friendships, and they don't have lockers. Like everything's so abnormal. It's so twisted. Like, don't we realize that this is what is partaking in a lot of these stresses and fights, and the kids are under so much pressure. We have to do something. We really do. Again, if we keep the mask, just make it a choice. If people aren't comfortable with not wearing it or wearing it, just wear it. Like, I'm on the verge of just telling my kids not to wear it. If you're going to kick them out, kick them out. But I'll keep doing it every day. I'll send them because it's enough. I see these high school kids all around the country. They're walking out. Amen to them, because if somebody doesn't do this, who's going to do it? We're going to wear these the rest of our lives? This is garbage. I've touched this thing like 1,000 times since I've been in here. And imagine what the kids do all day, and the little ones. I feel so sad for the little ones in Maple Hill. To see their little faces on the bus with these things on, it's so sad and so heartbreaking. This is their normal. This is their new normal, and this is not normal. We have to do something, please. It's just enough. We're all like, we're so on edge on this stuff. And I'm done. Thank you.
Kim Sacavino from 41 Fairchild Street in Naugatuck. Thank you for allowing me to speak briefly tonight. I have 3 kids, 2 in the Naugatuck public school system, 1 at Hillside and the other at Andrew Avenue. The youngest attends a private preschool in town. For going on 3 years now, we have been dealing with both COVID-19 and the unscientific guidelines put in place by the President, Governor, and Board of Education. We have learned early on that children were at low risk for serious illness, and yet in order for them to attend public schools, they are forced to wear face coverings. There is no science supporting this. However, it has been mandated and forced on our kids. These kids have already lost so much over the past couple of years due to the pandemic. It is time to move on and let them live their lives. My 3-year-old in preschool does not even know what normal looks like. Her whole school career so far has been seeing teachers covered. Part of kids' development is facial recognition. Due to the pandemic and the unscientific guidelines put in place, there has been an increase in kids with learning issues, social and emotional skills, behavioral issues, depression, anger, and suicide. These decisions are made out of fear, and the kids are suffering. Today, dropping off my son, I witnessed kids being confronted by the mask brigade. One student in particular had to wait outside until someone brought her a mask. She was not even allowed into the building until the mask was on her face. Under whose authority does the school have to restrict a student from entering an educational institution? Over a mask. We as a community cannot change the past and the damage it has caused, but we can work towards making a better future for the kids. Thank you.
Hi, I'm a teacher at Maple Hill School, and I just actually am not going to talk
If you
about
could just
math
give your
stuff.
name and your address for the record.
Elizabeth May. I work at Maple Hill School, 55 McFingal Road. The reason I'm here is because I had some people in my life who helped me become who I am. Unfortunately, one of them, Mr. Richard Pernicki, who I lost unexpectedly about 10 years ago, is not here. Also, just over a week ago, I lost my other friend, Edward Page. Both of them teachers in Naugatuck, one at Rich at Hillside and Ed at City Hill. Rich used to joke with me, not that Ed didn't, that someday I will have to take care of his photography and photographs because not everyone gets photography as an art form like I do. Rich, Ed, and I photographed weddings and portraits together for 20 years. We enjoyed posing, lighting, making people laugh, and especially creating memories. Those memories last forever. Photography, being digital now, has changed, but the social part, the connections that we're talking about tonight also have changed because of COVID a lot. But we can still make a change. That's what Rich and Ed did every day. Rich had a photography club at Hillside School, and he taught portrait photography after he retired also. He photographed many children at the YMCA, City Hill, and other Little Pal basketball events. Ed had a club called the Rock Club at City Hill. It was a club for kids who worked hard in school, and they learned about songs, rock bands, and they would discuss what the meaning of the songs were. Kids would pack the room for his club. There was even a waiting list. They both agreed, Rich and Ed, that helping children and students socially was rewarding and important. The only thing they disagreed on was Ed liked the Yankees and Rich liked the Red Sox. But Rich said the Red Sox will make it someday, even though people didn't think so, and they did. I say every child will make it someday, and they will, with social activities and support. One of Ed Page's students said, I was welcome to share his story. Many of his other students said he also gave them faith and confidence in themselves. Ed student Kevin Foster said the sudden loss of Mr. Page threw his senses off, made him reflect upon his own life and his very existence. If it wasn't for Mr. Page, who made me as part of his life, he would not have become the person that he would have become today as an adult. To say Ed Page changed the course of my life, he said, is an understatement. I was part of Mr. Page's first class as a teacher. He had the authority as an adult, but retained his coolness and that we could relate to. The Rock Club became the biggest, most popular gathering in the time. He also taught a lesson about President Nixon and how he began to open relations with China in 1972. He gave us a homework assignment to watch the historic meeting. Many students talked about China and the people. I had an epiphany. When I saw Nixon and the team walk up to the top of the Great China Wall, that became my goal. It took me 18 years to get permission to ride my bike with a Tour de France champ up the entire China Wall. Ever since then, in the long run, Kevin Foster rode the China Wall, had Chinese investors make a movie of his life story, and he wanted and did interview Mr. Page. He was responsible for who he became.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Page, thank you. So just one more thing. I wanted to talk to someone. Yeah, I wanted to talk to someone about starting a fund for photography. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle Fugazi, Evening Star Drive. I've been a part of Naugatuck. This is going on 3 years. So I don't have all the statistics and numbers. I come from a mom from kids down as second grade all the way through college. From a mom's perspective, of course, we're scared, we're nervous. Our job is to protect our kids. But at the end of the day, I had a 6-year-old that was depressed because she was stuck home from COVID. I have my son who is thriving in Naugatuck. They're doing amazing with him. But he goes to a class to learn how to express himself. because he's very monotone. Upon completing his sentence or talking about his day, that teacher then has to say, "Are you smiling?" That shouldn't be. He should be able to smile and know that he's learning to express himself. So then I took it a step further before I came today, and I asked my littler one, who is a very old soul, and I said, "Well, what do you think about removing your mask?" And I said, "How do you feel?" And she said, "Mom, I don't even know what half my friends look like. That shouldn't be a normal child's perspective." I said, "Would you feel comfortable with your own choice?" And she said, "Absolutely, that's the way I want to go to school. If I'm scared one day, I can wear a mask. If not, I can talk to my friends and see what they smile." She said, "And if they do change it, can I go to my teacher from last year and see what she looks like?" And that shouldn't be their normal. She's 7 years old. And thinking long term, because that's how I operate. I get it. We're working on this virus from short term, but what about their long term oral health? The teeth, my son, again, it's coming home disgusting, soaked, bitten, like his oral hygiene, that's not good. He's got eczema behind his ear that's been bleeding for a year because the mask keeps rubbing. Long term, what is it going to do for them mentally? Their viruses, pandemics, everything they're going to face throughout their life, they're going to face again. They get a childhood once. That's something they should be able to live and enjoy with the way we want to have them enjoy it. If we mask, fine. If we don't mask, fine. But they get that one chance to be kids. And they're missing out the past 2 years. They have not been kids. And whatever decision, I stand behind Naugatuck, because you guys have been phenomenal. But that's my choice, would be to let them be kids.
My name is Caleb Thomas, 132 Park Ave.
No, can you just repeat that, please?
My name is Caleb Thomas, 132 Park Ave.
132 Park Avenue, Naugatuck.
I don't like masks because they hurt and they indent like the back of your ear. And if like in school, if you take your mask like under the nose, teachers yell at you. And if you have your mask down, they'll say that they'll take away your recess. And yeah, that's it.
I'm just going to add on to him. It's been 2.5, almost 3 years. Since I walked into this room alone, I counted, there have been 56 people touching their mask. What does that do for us? That doesn't do anything. We are literally sharing our germs with everything else. It doesn't matter. This cloth, I could breathe right through it. Even if I had another one, it doesn't make a difference. We're not protecting anything. The CDC has already agreed that it's not helpful. The mental state of these children is really what the biggest thing that's going to affect all of them. These are our future. We can't have these kids thinking this is normal. They are going to be protecting all of us adults in this room one day. We need to rely on them. That is our future. We need to protect them mentally, emotionally, all the way around. We have to protect them. They rely on us. There's no other way around it. We have to worry about the safety of their mental health, because this is already proven not to help. So why are we still wearing them? It makes no sense. That's about all I got to say.
I don't know how this is pushed up. There we go. My name is Tyler Fredericks, 171 Beacon Manor Road. I stand before you tonight for 2 reasons. My 6th grade daughter and my son, who is in the early childhood education program at Central Ave. At the end of this month, Governor Lamont is going to relinquish the mask mandate and hand it over to the towns.
I'm asking this board to then turn that to its rightful place, to the decision of the parents. For 2 years now, my daughter's been going to school wearing a mask, comes home with headaches, sinus issues, can go on all day about things like that. My son is a whole horse of a different color when it comes to this. He has an IEP. For those of you that don't know what an IEP is, it's essentially a learning plan for children with special needs, be it autism. In my son's case, he came into the program essentially nonverbal, and by the gumption and innovation of the teachers there, phenomenal by the way, he has made great strides in that. But it's being hindered, not being able to see the face, making out the words, talking. They have had amazing ways of trying to do this, whether it be using the clear masks, what have you. I'm not going to sit here and debate whether a mask works, whether it doesn't, throw out fiery rhetoric. I'm asking for the option be given to the parents. My daughter may very well, if this is lifted by this board, go into school and decide I'm going to wear my mask today because it's cold out, or a lot of people are getting sick in school. I'm okay with giving her that decision. My son, same thing. With that IEP, with the condition that he has, a lot of times it is a lot harder for him to wear it. And I'd like to see a little more stride in his education and his development, which, like I said, those teachers there are amazing, if anybody has known them. I'm a product of the Naugatuck school system. This school system did right by me. I'm asking this board to do right by my kids now. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Barbara Vialba of 233 Tawny Thrush Road. I have a son who is in kindergarten at Maple Hill, and I would like to begin by personally thank each and every one of you in this room who has made it their mission to keep our children safe during these very difficult times. I'm on the PTO. I understand it's hard, but I'm with you guys. But with that being said, it's time to give those responsibilities back to the parents. My job as a mother is to teach my children how to think and not what to think, to lead and guide them, to gather information, find the facts, form an opinion, and then make an educated decision. That basic right has been taken from us. Now, I completely understand why in the beginning we had to have mandates and protocols in place. There were so many uncertainties and the unknowns. But it's time to start getting back to our pre-COVID lives. As parents, we should be able to have these conversations in our own homes, within our family, and trust that we will make the best decisions for our children. For 2 years now, the majority of us have lived our lives in fear and put our lives on hold. I have heard more times than I can count that our children are resilient. They don't have issues with the mask, or they don't know better. Just take a second to realize how truly sad that is. A lot of our students believe that this is the norm. They know nothing other than wearing a mask and standing 6 feet apart from their friends. They don't know what it's like to gather in the cafeteria or even see their teacher smiling back at them. We desperately need to show our children how school is supposed to be, that this isn't the norm. School is supposed to be a fun and safe place. I know some of the greatest times I've had has been in the Naugatuck public school system. This is why I'm an advocate for my child and for this town. If people are not ready, that's their choice to continue to wear the mask. They have choices. As a mother, I feel like my back's against the wall and I am teaching my son to comply. If some people are not ready, again, they have that choice. All I'm asking is to give me my right as a parent back. We can no longer be dictated by fear. Our children have suffered enough. Please, please give parents back their rights to their own children. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Sharon Plumberg. I'm at 85 Morning Mist Road. For me, this boils down to the burden that's been placed on our children and the mistreatment of our children. In a world where we're encouraged to express our individuality, this has been stripped away from our children. Our children are, as parents, we're told not to judge one another, and yet our children are both being the victims of judgment and learning to judge others because of the division that's been going on. The expectation that kids want to learn has been removed. From when my son steps on the bus in the morning, all I see are sad faces. Staring from the school bus, some with their heads down against the seat in front of them. There's no interaction, and we're unable to see any smiling faces, mainly because there aren't any. The way that children are being treated, being reminded constantly to pull up their masks, being removed from classrooms or airlines. Sorry, bear with me a second. And I just want to end with a quote. Instead of raising our children who turn out okay despite their childhood, let's raise children who turn out extraordinary because of their childhood. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Hollister, 54 Margaret Circle. Just want to start off with saying that recently the federal court ruled that the vaccine and mask mandate was unconstitutional for large businesses, which tells us that shouldn't our children fall into those same constitutional rights being born to the United States as large corporations and large businesses? The fact that this is even a debate right now troubles me because constitutionally the federal government already found this to be unconstitutional. Moving forward, the mask enables children to read facial cues, facial recognition, understanding someone's emotions based off of their facial expressions and demeanor. Various jobs I've worked, that's a big thing, especially when you're interacting with people, trying to learn things, pick up facial cues, smiles, frowns, anger. You can't see if someone's getting mad at you. By wearing a mask, our children aren't picking up on any of these things at the very youngest of ages. My son is he's in kindergarten at Maple Hill School. He came home one day and said a child had dropped his crayon box, and he tried to help him pick it up, and the teacher told him he couldn't. Excuse my French, but we're raising our kids to be assholes by not allowing them to show kindness to other children. When we're home, if something happens, I have a little girl. My son will help my daughter clean up her toys, whatever. It goes both ways. But in school, we're telling them, no, you can't do that. It's not okay for you to help this other child pick up the toys when he tripped or help someone clean up. We're teaching kids to be rude, unintentional as it may be. It's the message being portrayed when you tell a child you cannot help that other child clean up his mess. You can't do this because COVID. You're creating issues that I don't think we fully understand the end effect of what this is going to do to our children. Then for children with respiratory issues, I don't have them personally, but wearing this mask, sometimes it makes it hard to breathe. If I'm running in this mask, it sucks. But for kids with respiratory issues, asthma, whatever they may be, it has to be even worse for them. Not that they don't struggle enough just by having those issues. We're aiding to that struggle by putting a mask on them, telling them, no, sir, you can't take that off in gym class. You have to wear that. You're making his whole life harder. Moving forward, I did some time with the military. In that time, I got trained with chemical biological weapons. We had to deal with masks that seal tight to your face. COVID is supposed to be a biological hazard. These don't seal tight. I could stick a finger in here. You have people with facial hair like this gentleman. That's not a tight seal. If I sprayed a can of pepper spray in this room right now, everyone in here would choke. These masks do not stop it. I work with pepper spray almost daily. This isn't going to stop it. You still choke on it. You're talking about a virus that's 25 times smaller than the woven particles on your N95 mask. If the gentleman next to you or female is wearing perfume or cologne, and you're able to smell that while wearing a mask, COVID is going to get through that mask. The microorganism that is the virus
Thank
is
you.
smaller. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is James Higgins, 67 Michael Lane, for the record. I am a foster and adoptive parent here in town. I have had 7 or 8 different kids come through our school systems from the ECC all the way up through the high school. Have been very fortunate to have a lot of graduates come through here. And I am constantly saying positive things about our town and everything that we're doing. I'm here tonight not to add to any complaints. I want to be a part of our solution. And our schools are in need of help with staffing. We all know this. The world is in need of help of staffing. So I want to either start something or chair something where we can have the parents in this room come into our schools and help lobby the hallways to make sure our students are getting to and from our classrooms on time and appropriately. The administration, the security officers, they're maxed out. It is what it is. And they're frustrated, as they rightfully should be, because they're working on short staffs. I think everybody in the room, everybody in the town, and everybody probably across the state and country has worked with short staffing before in your respective roles. I'm sure we can all relate to that. This is our teacher and administration's turn, and unfortunately, they're experiencing it twice as bad, coming from children who are used to being at school at home with little to no supervision. I can recall a quick story where I had my mother watching the kids while school was happening at home for one day. I popped home for lunch. Well, one of my kids said, "Oh yeah, school's done for the day." All right, grandma believes it. And now he's playing PlayStation. I look over, the laptop's next to him with Mr. Merengue, who's on there, giving his lesson. And I'm like, hold up, what's going on here? So I'm fortunate in that regard to have an adult be with the kids. I know that unfortunately there were situations across the town and across the country where students were home left to their own device. They have different behaviors than what they're used to. So I want to be here as part of the solution. Whatever it takes, if I have to use PTO time for work, if I have to come on my lunch break, if I need to help walk the hallways just to make sure, I want to be that. And I want to challenge every parent in this town to join with me. And hopefully we'll have a waiting list of parents who are willing to help. So that way we don't have to worry about the 7 or 8 p.m. phone calls I'm getting from Mrs. Mezzo saying, "Oh, you can't have your kid come to school tomorrow because of whatever the reason is for, suspension and a fight or whatever the case is." So let's be part of the solution. Let's not continue to be a part of the problem. And please keep my name in mind, James Higgins, whatever it takes. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Frank Mills, 150 Spencer Street. First thing I'd like to say is this poor gentleman over here, I know how he feels. My stepdaughter goes to City Hill. And this past year, she was assaulted she's 13, she was assaulted at the school bus, punched in the eye. Got a black eye. She's telling me, my wife, that she was playing with Sadie next door and she got bumped in the eye. I didn't know she got punched. But then come to find out later on, the truth came out and she told me. Needless to say, I'm the stepdad, so I don't have a lot of power. I can't go to the City Hill. I can't go into the school. I can't talk to the principal. I forced my wife to call the police. This kid was suspended for carrying a knife to school. So let me make sure I understand this. A boy, 13 years old, hits my 13-year-old daughter, gives her a black eye. My daughter is an honor student at school. She's going to be going in Naugatuck next year. I want to get her out of the Naugatuck system. Why do I want to keep her somewhere that she can get hurt? And I can't protect her. Going to the police department in Naugatuck, waste of time. Nobody even came back to either one of us and told us a thing of what was going to be done about this, because it's another child. So he's got his work cut out for him because he's going to be going there next year. I'm angry. I can't do nothing about it. So I'm going to get by that. I wanted to let you guys know about that. Number 2, my wife is a school bus driver. My sister-in-law is a school bus driver, one for Prospect, one for Naugatuck. These kids don't want to keep the masks on. They're constantly writing kids up because they're being told to put it on and they don't want to put it on. So every day for 2 years, I've been hearing this. As a businessman that I am that worked on foreclosures in 6 states and fighting prostate cancer, stage 4 prostate cancer, you would think going through radiation that my immune system, I should get it first. There are people getting this shot, getting the booster shot. Everybody wants to wear their mask, get these immune systems or whatever. I got friends and family members that are getting COVID. I have a low immune system. I haven't gotten it. And I'm in 6 different states. I know that at one point this probably was a good idea, just like all these shots that everybody's saying to do. I know it was at one time. But you know what? It's been proven time and time again. The shots aren't working and these masks aren't working. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jackie Flynn. I live at 76 Nichols Road, Naugatuck. I'm actually reading for someone else today that couldn't be here. So her name is Sherry Burgess, and she lives at 109 Donovan Road, Naugatuck.
I'm sorry, you can't read for somebody else.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just say parts of it that I feel that. Oh my God. All right. I'll speak for myself. I put my notes away. I just spent this whole week trying to figure out what's going on in the state with this bill and Governor Lamont. So I sat and listened to 3 hours of testimony from parents for an informational hearing on Tuesday, where parents obviously spoke about their concerns about the mask wearing and where this is going and who's going to be in control of making these decisions. Yesterday, there was the state of this address by Governor Lamont, where everything seems very confusing, and I think on purpose, and that concerns me. I just spent all day today trying to listen to the hearing on the bill that was being passed at the Capitol with our House of Representatives. And I was listening until the moment I left here, and I still can't figure it out. I don't know if you guys can figure it out, but I can basically shed a little bit of light. They are, Governor Lamont is trying to basically pass the baton to get himself out of hot water, I think, to help himself in the next election. So it seems that on the 28th of February, it's going to go to the Department of Public Health, the State Department of Education, and Department of Early Education, I believe, to make the decision on the mask wearing. It's been said that it's going to come to this Board of Ed. I don't know. It seems that nobody wants to really take responsibility for the decision making. And I feel it's time for someone to be brave in this fight. I mean, this is crazy. This is about the kids and the kids getting a normal life, a normal education, seeing their teachers' faces. I mean, I don't have to reiterate what everybody said. Everyone made great comments tonight. But I'm really looking at this board to sit and tackle this and do what's right for the community, for the parents, and for the students that have spoken out. We all know that the masks are more about politics and compliance and money and less about science. We already know they don't work. They supposedly prevented maybe 5% of the cases in our schools. How they come up with that number, I can't tell you, but we know they don't work. I'm wearing one that's see-through.
Thank you.
We've been spoken to about that.
Point of order.
I'm sorry?
Point of order. There's nothing in our policy that just stops someone from speaking for somebody else at the podium.
So there's
not anything in the policies, but you're supposed to state your name and address. And if you're stating your name and address, that's not your name and address.
I stated both.
I'm just saying that there's nothing in the comment that says we can't let people speak for someone else or read someone else's remarks.
Can they submit the testimony? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I just want to add, it seems that we've had a lot of cases of COVID in the school system, being teachers and students. I would love to know what the rate of natural immunity is in our school system, and I would suspect that we have actually herd immunity in the entire school district. And I think that's an important point. If we're wearing masks to prevent something that everyone's already had, and nobody's talking about that. I mean, we all know the numbers. So that's where I just want to end, and I just ask the board to really be brave in this. It's like someone's got to take the reins and really speak for the kids. Thank you.
Good evening, guys. Megan Smith, 41 Mulberry Street. Tonight, I stand before you as a mother of three, a nurse in the community, and an advocate. I stand here tonight to be a voice for the voiceless, a voice for the children whose voices have been taken away by masks, mandates, and unnecessary burdens. Burdens that a child's shoulders should not be forced to carry. An adult's safety is not a child's responsibility. As an adult, you can make choices for yourself. You can choose if you want to wear a mask. You can choose if you want to be vaccinated. A child can't make that choice, but their parents can, and the parents deserve to have that right restored. I am aware of the risk and benefits of my children wearing a mask. My healthy children are not a threat to other children or the staff. My healthy children are not responsible for protecting other students and or staff. My healthy children have had 2 years of being told they need to mask up to keep others safe. They have spent 2 years of nagging reminders such as, don't forget your mask, pull your mask up over your nose, do the right thing to protect your friends. My youngest child should have gone to kindergarten this year, but we made the decision to keep him home, not due to the fear that has been driven, but due to the guidelines throughout the district. Kindergarten is not meant to be isolating. It should be warm, welcoming, full of interaction and compassion. It's not that way anymore. Our youngest greyhounds don't even know what their friends or teachers' smiles look like. 2 years have gone by. Think about that. Some of these kids have never seen a normal school year, and I'm starting to feel like they never will again. The science is clear. The time to end this is now. The future of our greyhounds lies in your hands. I implore you to not fail our Naugatuck students. They're hurting. They deserve better. It's no secret that the depression, the mental health crises, the aggression, it's at an all-time high throughout our district, and the decision's in your hands now. All we want is choice. Thank you.
All right. So we can't read it on behalf of somebody else? That's not okay. Okay. All right. I'm James Canale, 106 Johnson Street. And as Connecticut moves towards eliminating the statewide mandate on masks and leaves its decision to the local level, we ask that you consider the needs of the population that has been ignored to this point, our children and those who advocate for them. For nearly 24 months, we have complied against our own values and beliefs in many cases. We have done what we were asked for the greater good, and yet these mandates continue. Now is the time to show that you are enrolled for the right reasons, for the betterment of the whole student. To date, I have not heard of one instance of a Board of Ed member sitting in a classroom for a full day to see how this impacts the day-to-day life of a student. I have not seen a single Board of Ed member at a game, meet, or function to see the impact of the life of the student athlete. As parents, we see this, we understand the impact on our children is being masked all day. Then again, at their extracurricular activities, wearing masks for almost 12 hours a day is definitely not healthy. It's not the best interest for our students. We understand that you may not be able to control the mask rules of other districts for the after-school events. However, where you can make a difference and by giving the kids and parents a choice of masking or not. As you sit in your offices with your mask off, imagine how it would be to be masked all day, every day, and how these last 24 months have been. These students do not have the luxuries you afford yourselves at your private desks unmasked. They can't walk outside at any time they want to get a fresh air or take a mask break. They spend more than 6 hours, much more for some who are using the bus, then start all over again to continue to be involved in other activities at school. I ask that before you make your decision that each of you spend a day in the life of these kids, and that after you've done so, come to my honest conclusion as to where your physical and mental health stands. I've seen my children struggle to stay focused and motivated after a 12-hour day of being masked. I've seen their grades suffer. I've seen the decline in their mental and physical health. I've shared with some of you through Zoom meetings and emails the impact of my children. Many have never responded. Mr. Montini, Mr. Solozzi, and Mr. Littke, all ignoring the communications that have been sent. I hope that you hear this message today and can understand the impact that you have made and the damage is already done. Now it's time to show that you belong in a role and that you're here for the right reasons. Give students and parents a choice, and the local mask debate. That was behalf of Eliza Murphy anyways, but being here, this is my first time coming to a Board of Ed meeting, and it's kind of eye-opening seeing that everybody in this room, or everybody who's at least spoken, does anybody know how many people have spoken? Maybe 22.
Thank you.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that everybody's got the same reason, so thank you for your time.
Cynthia Broder, 131 Park Avenue. I live right across the street from Caleb. The one who was asked 3 times to repeat himself. We can hear, I think, clearer in the ROTC room than it seems you can hear in this room. I speak here today as a mother and as a teacher. Frustrated as a teacher, listening to what goes on in this town compared to what goes on in the school that I'm in. I teach in Fairfield County. I teach in a school where the many parents are doctors, are involved in healthcare, and our kids have more freedoms in the school I teach in than my own children in my own town. My daughter came home from school and she said, "Mom, the best way I can describe what it's like wearing this mask all day is what I felt like when we went to Colorado and we were in high altitude. I feel dizzy by the end of the day. I have headaches." You go to Colorado by choice. You go to school because you need to get an education. You deserve to be able to be here and feel healthy. I talked to my students in class. I asked the same thing. How do you feel at the end of the day? Many of them are like, I really hope we get the choice because I get a headache at the end of the day. I'm tired. They walk outside, the first thing they do is take a deep breath. That's sad that they don't feel that they can breathe well in school. My kids in my school, we have lockers. We have middle school students who are allowed to use their lockers. We have middle school students who go outside and take off masks and play catch and play tag and play football outside without masks on. I have 1 student out of 103 that are currently home with COVID. I have 1 student who returned today and said, "Mrs. Broder, it's not a big deal. I've been more sick with a cold." So why are we doing this to our kids? I don't understand it. Our school's also not consistently wiping everything down. Kids need to be exposed to a little bit of germs. My concern is that we're going to have kids that have zero immunity because we're trying to keep their houses and their families and everything sterile. Years ago, these weren't allowed. 2 years ago, I couldn't have these in my classroom, but yet we're passing them out and we're telling teachers to use antibacterials and wipes. It wasn't okay 2 years ago, but now we're desperately wiping everything down and kids can't touch stuff. My school, they share supplies. They share colored pencils. They use the pencil sharpener and they're fine. And parents are fine. We teach kids to make educated decisions. We talk about cite your evidence. Make your claim. We are making our claim, and we're asking you to look at the evidence. The masks are not protecting everyone. I was double vaccinated, and now I'm naturally immune. And I'm happy that I actually got it, because now I know I am more protected from more variants than I would have if I didn't have COVID. Let our kids live. I have less
Thank you.
kids.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aaron McCool. I live at 51 Brook Street, and I am a father first. I ran for the Board of Education of this town for one reason. My 3-year-old, who's now 5, has never gone to school. Never gone to school. Normal. And we have problems in Naugatuck because I got here and found 100 reasons to work with you guys, to get to know you guys, to do a real service to this community. And until we stop talking about COVID, we're not going to get a darn thing done. So please, today, start the process of stopping to talk about COVID with me when it comes up on the agenda. And please listen to the parents of this community who are asking us desperately to listen to them.
One last call for public comment. Anybody? Let's move into the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having Mrs. Hunt and myself. We're so excited to be here to share some of the wonderful things going on at the intermediate level. I'm Tiffany Dilbaum. I'm the principal at Cross Street Intermediate School.
Good evening. I'm Jonna Hunt. I'm the principal at Hillside Intermediate School. And as Tiffany said, we're really thrilled to be here and be able to give you guys a snapshot and highlight some of the things that are happening in our intermediate schools and to give you an overview of our strategic plans. So you'll see when we go through this that our plans are aligned to the district vision of the graduate, and they're centered around the priorities of academic excellence and creating a positive and responsive climate and culture. So we'll start with our theory of actions. We're going to each speak to ours briefly. At Hillside, like at Cross, our strategic plan comes to life through this theory of action. Our theory of action is our guide. It truly shapes what we do, the work that we do each and every day. When we draft our theory of action at Hillside, we actually start with the last part of our theory of action, which is that then statement at the bottom. And we work backwards. So I just want to take a minute and direct your attention to that then statement. Then every student at Hillside will demonstrate a love of learning, engage in deep and critical thinking, and view themselves as a valuable and contributing member of our community. And that really, in a nutshell, that's our purpose. That's our goal. That's why we do what we do. And so we ask ourselves every day, how do we do that? How do we get our students to have a love of learning? How do we get them to engage and think deeply? And how do we get them to view themselves as valuable and contributing members? And the answers to those questions then gets to the top part of our document, which is, when teachers do these things. And so I won't read it to you because it's there for your up on the screen, and board members have a copy of it. But, it's highlighted for you. It's focusing this year on really looking at the learning cycle, making sure that our teachers are constantly reviewing student work, that they're giving timely feedback to our students that is meaningful and helps move them forward. We're working this year on the model of acceleration and how do we make sure that our students, our teachers are very intentional in identifying what students need and then move them forward so that they're ready to access that education. And we create culturally relevant and equitable experiences for all our learners. And by doing those things, our kids will be empowered to understand why they're learning, what they're learning and why, and to be able to take risks, to reflect on their learning, and to actively participate.
Next slide, please. So I won't read mine because it's got similar elements to Mrs. Hunt's as well as the district's. I'm just going to point out a few of the things that might be things that we're highlighting this year. Mrs. Hunt mentioned the acceleration, which is a model that many people have probably heard around the state and around the country, which just focuses on all children being able to access their education regardless of how they learn or at what rate they learn. So it's a model that focuses on the positive versus trying to maybe the words that we heard when we were children catching kids up. We want all children to be able to learn, and we understand that there's, concern that maybe students have lost some progress, but I feel like this model is really helping us learn strategies as teachers and staff and administrators and instructional leaders to help children catch up at a faster rate. The last part, then every student will be challenged to make meaning, explore, create, and transfer their learning across contexts. I think that's one of the best parts about intermediate school. Our level 5th and 6th grade, our students are able to read. They love being social, so we've really tried to push that engagement in the schools and allowing them to do group work as safely as we can. And we've seen a nice improvement this year with children that are happy coming to school, that are questioning each other, pushing each other's thinking, having great debates and discussions, and really enjoying their learning. So that's been a great highlight this year, and I'm really happy to say that some parts of their education are returning to a new normal. Thank you.
So we'll focus first on creating a positive climate, which is actually the second priority in the district's plan, but we thought we would speak to this first. We know that we have to address the social and emotional well-being of our learners. We have to create those strong relationships. That's paramount to being able to get to that academic excellence that we're always striving for. So we have a few pictures that highlight some of the happenings that are taking place at our school, trying to take advantage, especially in that nice weather, of being outside and allowing children to be outside and play and enjoy and collaborate together. So we, again, at all the schools in Naugatuck, but at the intermediate as well, continuing with our ruler, which is working on the social and emotional well-being of our students. All the classes have classroom charters, and the school in general have charters that the kids are looking at and thinking about each and every day. We have weekly social emotional lessons that our schools explicitly teach to children. And actually just this past week or so, our kids have been at Hillside. They had a project where after the first half of the year, they were presenting to each other what they learned from their first half of SEL lessons. So that was awesome to see the kids up there and explaining that to one another. We have monthly heritage focuses at both our schools. We have student councils that are very active. We have different events and celebrations. We try to do them as often as we can. And we just added a specific one, which I know is a crowd favorite, and is our March Madness tournament, which will be back this year at Hillside. So the kids are excited for that.
We might have to match
You
that
might
because
have
I'm
to
getting
match
a lot
that.
of feedback on that one. We can't be outdone. All right. So, students are first and foremost at the intermediate school, but building a positive climate for our staff, we know is super important. We want people to come to work and be happy because we know that translates into positive environment for our students. So we've worked really hard to have that. And I'm happy to report that I feel that at both of the intermediate schools, our staff retention has been good. We've had, relatively good attendance. Of course, we've had staffing issues like all people, especially when we've had outbreaks of COVID. But for the most part, we've had a really good, strong year. Some of the things that we've done to support that, just making sure faculty wellness is at the forefront. We've had some professional development focused on more of a workshop model and collaborative team, so allowing staff to have more times with each other. We know that there are experts and they learn well from each other, so trying to give them more time where they're working with their colleagues. We've done just some fun things, but I think they're really important for teachers to network across the district just to see. We try to do a lot of things similar, but again, they're the experts, and if they can learn from their colleagues across the river, we encourage that. So we had a very successful volleyball game, Hillside Cross Street. I'm not going to tell you who won, but maybe the other school is going to win next month. We're going to have a basketball.
Basketball.
And so, you know, being Jana and I lifelong residents of Naugatuck too. Many years ago, there used to be rivals when we were middle schools, and we're happy to say that we don't see that anymore. We try to model that with our staff as well. Students now get to play sports a lot together versus being rivals, and the kids really enjoy that. They'll tell me what's going on over at Hillside if I didn't know, and vice versa. So you know, we're really happy to report. I think we have a positive climate right now in both of our schools.
And before we get into, we're going to highlight, each of us will talk. I'll speak to humanities, and Tiffany is going to speak to math. But we really wanted to first just show you a little glimpse. And although it looks linear, it really should probably be more circular. But the PD that we do throughout the year and how it does tie back to those theories of action into our strategic plan. It is, we plan and we're very strategic and thoughtful about using those district PD days, about using our monthly faculty meetings, our weekly PLT meetings where teachers come together and share content, and think about what do they need to make that vision come to life. So we've done PD on self-awareness and reflection, really helping teachers to have that ownership themselves of what they need to improve as teachers. How do they get to know their own learners? We work with them on making sure they know their students. One of the newer tools that we have this year is iReady Benchmark and Pathways. So that's an assessment tool that we use to kind of see where our students are in math and reading and help us to meet their individual needs. We've done a lot of work this year with Acceleration PD. We've done 3 distinct modules with the teachers on that PD, and actually we have just started. I was at Cross Street last week. They're coming next week to Hillside for our instructional rounds, and when we're actually going out and we're looking and seeing, do we see evidence of all that PD? What does it really look like in the classrooms, and what can we continue to do to improve? So the work on acceleration has been really exciting. And then you can look through it and see the rest. I don't have to read them all the way through, but that's just some of the different professional learning that is going on at the intermediate levels to bring our strategic plans to life.
Oh, that's me. So just a quick highlight on some of the math. Over the last few years, the math block at the intermediate levels has increased in length and time. So we call it a STEM block, and it includes both math and science. That in turn has allowed for an increase in work time for students. So students have more time to work in a small group, a one-on-one with a teacher or a paraprofessional or one of our reading or math assistants, and or with a small group. So that's really, we've seen some nice improvement in that, where students can ask questions right during the day. We don't have to worry about it maybe going home and them not being sure what to do. We've had a focus on conceptual understanding, which is of course teaching students algorithms, but also other ways. What does that look like if it was a visual representation or an actual physical model? Some of our new programs, Desmos for grade 6, have all these really cool interactive tools that actually show the students what it would look like. They can do trials and repeat numbers. Today I was in a classroom in 2900ths plus, 1 in 5200ths. And they could move models so that they can see what that would look like. They can do that with multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So we're really working on building that for students. I kind of already said that we're going to do grade 6 right now has started Desmos Learning, which is a math program that we have in 7th and 8th grade already. And this year was the first year for grade 6. The students are really reporting very engaging. We see a lot more active learning on their part. And next year, I know we're going to move to illustrative math for grade 5, which has similar features, very interactive for students, a nice combination of some paper and pencil and cool tools that they can use and kind of almost have fun with learning and not be as intimidated. We just had a recent interim assessment in fractions, and it was the best results I've seen in a lot of years, even my decades through teaching in middle school myself as a math teacher. The kids were not afraid of fractions, which I think was the case in years past.
And so at the intermediate level, we have the humanities block, which is our reading, writing, social studies integrated block. It is really an amazing curriculum that we just love, and the kids love it. It's really focused on collaboration. It's inquiry based and very engaging. The kids take a lot of ownership in the work that they're doing, and it truly is exciting to see it in action. 3 things that I'm going to just touch on briefly this year that's a little bit new is we have book clubs, which are amazing. Any of you that have just ever been in a book club yourself as an adult, it's that basic premise. We have kids that are reading a shared book. It's based on a theme tied to what their unit of study is, but they read it. They have time to discuss and ask each other engaging questions. And when you sit and listen to them talk about these books that they get to choose, it just
having them talk about a book.
Right.
So
And
having
hold
4 children and 3 boys talking about a book is like amazing.
It's exciting. And and they'll ask me if I'm going to read the same books, I'll walk around and I'll join in a book clubs. But it's really it's exciting. And we talked about trying to instill that love of learning, and seeing kids fall in love with books is one of the most exciting things. So we've updated. There's been a lot of work on updating our humanities tasks to make them where students are really investigating. They're making meaning, they're investigating, and then they're always creating and they're presenting what they find. So just the other day, they were studying the concept of freedom, and then they were looking at different groups that have struggled with freedom. And they had to come up with some type of visual representation that explained to them what freedom meant for them and in these groups. And to hear them be able to create, but then explain it to their peers and get feedback from one another is really exciting. And to see that work all over our halls is so nice when you walk by, and they're proud to see their work displayed. And the last piece that we'll speak to is our writing assessments, which are newer this year. So really taking an opportunity, and when we say writing assessments, it really is about an opportunity for teachers to get a sense of where their students are as writers and how they're using writing as a tool to communicate. So they get an assessment, the teachers give them lots of background knowledge, make sure that all the kids understand the content. So we make sure they have that clear background knowledge, give them information, and then ask them to be able to use the written language to convey their idea, and then use that information. We score them collectively and kind of get a sense of where do we need to instruct our students from there. So
and they're really proud of the progress they made. So I was in a class today and they says, Mrs. Diedelbaum, did you guys have your meeting this week? Because they know we meet weekly to look at their work. And I says, no, we didn't have it this week, but next week. And they want to know like what we think, but I think they could see the difference too. So that's been really nice to have. They'll do that 3 times, October, January, and then at the end of the year, May. Just in closing, want to say that we really appreciate, Jonna and I really appreciate the board and the whole Naugatuck community for your support in making sure that we are in person fully learning all year. I have many friends around the country that are teachers and educators, and I know that this is not the case in every state, and I really appreciate that. I believe that I speak on behalf of all the intermediate school staff, and to say how wonderful the last few months have been to be in person with children that are laughing and playing and excited to come to school and happy, and they're making growth academically and socially. And we, as staff, will continue to have a deep commitment to educating them and appreciate all of your support. Thank you.
If you guys could just come back for a second, I have some questions if no one else does.
Yeah. Okay. Can you just explain again the Desmos curriculum for sixth grade?
Sure.
The math?
Sure. So it's a math program and it's 6th through 8th grade. I believe they might expand, Ms. Messenger, they might. But we started it in 7th and 8th grade last year. They saw a lot of success and we had some meetings and talked with them. And it's just a curriculum that you would purchase, but there's a lot of online features versus maybe a textbook that we've had in the past, although you can print things out. So the teachers have really done a nice job between, paper and pencil and doing things online. There's like check-ins daily that they could do. There's review of videos. There's examples that the teachers can walk through. But I would say, Mrs. Grant, one of the highlights of it is that it's everybody maybe says they're based in real world. It really is. Almost all of the problems really connect with something that they would need for real life as much as possible. So the kids are really engaged in the problems.
And every time.
Yeah. There's more word problems than I would say, but that's the trend in all of the math in the last decade, probably, since I maybe started teaching math. And there's still certainly some practice sections where they're breaking it down and they're working with different numbers. But I would say on the whole, everything is really grounded in real world things that really relate to them. I mean, even one I didn't think I was like, I think the Rounds were with us on the garden. There was one about a garden and the kids, I was like, I don't know, 5th and 6th grade, but they were really into it. Oh, okay. Oh, you did saw that. So they were really into it and wanted to see how that they could make this garden for themselves and collectively as a group, a little like nice arguing back and forth. No, we don't want tomatoes in there. Oh, I don't like tomatoes. Why would you have flowers in there? We had a discussion if they're edible flowers or not. Love to have anybody come and join too. If you want to call and we can have you come in and see it. The kids love to talk about it and they can give you the pros and cons for sure.
So my questions are going to ask if you can talk about the grades in your schools. And the reason I'm going to say that is none of your presentation actually talked about the data. And while I recognize we want to talk about the emotional IQ and what we're doing for that in our schools, I feel like we go so far that way. We forget that there's analytical data and some of that matters because when they get to high school, currently in Naugatuck, and it hasn't changed in a decade because asked Mr. Harris about it last time he came to present. And I forget if it's math or English, but 1 in 5 kids can pass math for the SATs and 2 in 5 can pass English or vice versa, which means, can you guys speak to the grades? Because we say we're self-aware, but I just didn't see any of that data.
Yeah, so go back to my folder over there. I have actually my some of my data with me. We didn't include that in there, but I can tell you that so right now in the fall we started with our iReady data, and that gave us a benchmark, and we just gave the winter, and we saw some definitely some nice growth. Now, if you look at it, we saw an inverted triangle of what we would hope to have. So ideally, you want to have in a population, you're going to have 80% of your kids are meeting the level, and then you're going to have a smaller number that are going to need some intervention, and then eventually an even smaller number in that triangle of any population that would require special education services. Our triangle is definitely not in the shape that we would want it to be in, and so we are, and that's what we came into this year. But we went, I think we increased in our math and our reading 10 or 15% on that one screener in reading and math between the fall and the winter in the right direction. We're increased those that are at grade level, and we're decreasing the numbers that are below. But we have a long way to go. We absolutely do. We didn't look this much, and part of why I didn't show the data this year is because honestly, the Smarter Balance data this last year, it was such a crazy year. I didn't know what that really, we had remote learners, and so the kids in and out and who was there. So we didn't look as much at that back data, and we're trying to look at, okay, where are we now, and working on that data, and then we'll have our spring data to share with you. And I know it's cross streets, and you had pretty similar.
We share data regularly, and she was just at my round, so she got to see it. I wouldn't share out in comparative notes from the iReady assessment because it's our very first year using it. Prior to that, we used something called NWEA, and we had been doing that for a long time. And I would have been happy to show you trends, and we could have shown growth from comparing one class to the next. I can speak to some of our interim data for a Smarter Balance, which are these small 12 to 14 question tests to get ready for that. And our latest one that we did just review earlier in the week was sixth grade fractions. And 82% of the students were in the top two categories, which is at or near or above. And so then there's a below category. So it was less than 20%. Our first IEB in that grade 6 for geometry, I believe it was not quite as good. I think we were in 65. It was back in October. It wasn't quite as good. But I think we're getting better. Now that the kids are in here, we've put some things in place in terms of a period, a block every day, where students go for a half hour with one teacher, a half hour for another. They might get acceleration. They might go do some extracurricular electives or get extra help in the subject areas if they need to. In terms of our Smarter Balance, I would say the same with Mrs. Hunt. We did see a dip last year. Could we break it down by in-person, remote, or a combination? Sure, but many students flip-flopped. So might have been here for 3 months, or been out. So in terms of how did we take a big decline? In one of the subjects, it was maybe 2%. So I wouldn't really say that was a huge decline. And in the other subject in math, it was a little bit different. It was about 9% less than we had been in previous years.
Thank you. And I want to preference that I don't think we have like bad teachers in Naugatuck. I don't think we're not working hard to educate our students. But if we take COVID and the 2 years that we have this crazy data out of the equation, we haven't passed an educational metric for the state of Connecticut. And I'm not saying I like the metrics, but they exist. And if I went to work every day and didn't hit any of the metrics for 8 to 10 years, I would be in trouble if I couldn't speak to that more than self-assessment, social emotional learning, monitoring how kids feel, if they like this, if they like that. I want to know if they can do the job. And currently in Naugatuck, we can't do the job. We have to talk about ways in which we are acknowledging it and saying, hey, we're making progress, but that's the data I need to see. And I'm not saying we're not doing a good job.
Happy to share that with you.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's the data I need to know we're doing a good job, to tell our parents we're doing a good job in education.
Sure, we can, plan with Mr. Montini and Mrs. Cooney as well, because we do share it weekly as staff. They have a PLC or PLT that they review data regularly.
because I have a fifth grader and she's actually interested in books and was telling me about a book. And I think that's pretty good proof because I don't think she's ever done that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kelly. You're very helpful. So Mrs. Messenger and I are excited to share with you how our ESOL and bilingual services are growing and enhancing. We have attached for you a full EL handbook for your reference, and this presentation will briefly take you through components of that handbook. I'm going to start with our trend data since 2017-18 to our current school year and some predictions for our upcoming school year. This graphic likely looks familiar to most of you, as this data is included in your budget books each year, and this is the most updated data. It's important for us to look at the increase of students who are identified as English learners, because it's indicating to us that we need to continue to enhance our programming and services. And again, another graphic, which is likely to look very familiar to you, is our vision of the graduate. And so we also have a vision of EL education in the Naugatuck Public Schools, which is aligned with our vision for each and every one of our students. And it embraces our students' cultures and languages as assets in their learning journey.
So when we sat and developed this vision, it was, of course, very important to align it to our vision of the graduate and to align it with what we do in our classrooms and our curriculum. So we live this vision every day. It is in every classroom. It is talked about in regards to all of our learning. And so by including culture and language as an asset, we are only enhancing the vision that we have for all of our students to leave here and go out and take over the world. So K-12 education, when it comes to English learners, there are several different ways that Naugatuck works with students who are acquiring English. One is when we reach a certain threshold, we do offer bilingual programs, and it works with the native language support. So if we have 20 or more students who speak Spanish in a school, that will trigger in the following year a bilingual program with a teacher who or a para who speaks that language and can assist children in learning English through a bilingual approach. This is only available up through 9th grade students only. Our students also receive.
Let me just interject, just so folks know at the board, that's state mandated. So what ends up happening is it runs your numbers as of October 1. October 1 is our PSIS. That's why when we bring you data for enrollment, we're comparing October. So if you have 20 students.
You just stole our slide. It's coming,
Yeah,
but
it's coming.
you're doing a
Thank
lovely
you.
job. We have another slide
You're
that
doing
will.
a great job. Yeah.
About the bilingual.
By the yes,
Okay, I'm sorry.
exactly. It's
I just
okay.
wanted to know it wasn't our 20-person rule.
Correct.
Exactly.
Got it. I'll stay in that lane.
Yes.
So children can receive services in many different ways. Probably the most popular, especially with our K-6, is either pull-out services where students would work in small groups with a TESOL, a teacher of English as a second or other language. and they would get tailored, personalized support and language learning. They could have push-in services where a certified TESOL teacher would be working with their classroom teacher, and they would be personalizing and working with those students in the classroom with their peers. In middle school, we also offer pull-out and push-in services, but we also have courses that are specifically designed with the needs of English learners. So the first level course would be self-advocacy and language, so that our kids are empowered, that their language is valuable and an asset. And we would be giving them tools to access the learning in their classrooms. And then the second level course would be the power of language, where they're learning how their language is a tool in their academic learning. When they get to the high school, they have courses that give them skills and tools based on their level, and that is determined by a state test called Lost Links. So we're able to look at that test and its results and use it as a starting point for delivering services to students, so that they can access the language of their classrooms, as well as the social language they need to form social bonds, make friends, and be successful. So the services that we have in those different models, you've got the push in, pull out, and you've also got our new courses that are coming. And all of that is guided by the Connecticut English Language Proficiency Standards, which are available online. But we tailor all of our instruction using those standards and protocols so that we are meeting students' needs.
Here's your slide.
Here's your slide. So the state of Connecticut has very specific legislation that guides us in determining eligibility for bilingual programming. So part of that legislation is using the October PSIS data, where if we have 20 English learners, they have the same home language, that will trigger for us the need for a bilingual program. And bilingual education is available to students through 9th grade. The state has a cap that if you are 30 months or less from graduation, that bilingual program is no longer available to you. So we offer instead, one of our solutions was to develop the courses that would really target and be very specific in looking at the needs of those learners.
I just want to add and point out that the bilingual program is a biliteracy approach, and it focuses on the use of language analysis and growth of academic language skills in both of their languages. So it's an additive model. And assessing our students using competencies towards their learning, as we do with all of our students, occurs, of course. But in addition to that, we want to assess our students and their language proficiency growth. We do that using a state assessment that is called the Lost Links, which is done annually, and it assesses our students in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. We also have a draft, as you can see in the handbook, for an English learner progress report, because we know it's important for us to be able to communicate with our families progress towards that language proficiency. And you'll see also a draft of a language development plan. That plan, while this visual is linear, it really could be a cycle. That plan is driven around a student's growth, and instruction is designed based on whatever the assessments are determining we might need to provide additional support in. Is this you? Is this you or me? I can't remember. Okay, so I'm going to go. So communication with our families of English learners is important to us, as it is communication with all of our families. Partnering with families is one of the most important things that we do. We know that with our families who have students who are identified as English learners, we might need additional tools to be able to communicate with them. And so we're providing teachers and staff with a research-based toolkit, this OELA toolkit, which there's a hyperlink you can link to, which focuses and provides us with strategies and support. And here are 4 tools that our staff can use to be able to effectively and meaningfully communicate with our families. In addition to that, we have translation services. So technology can be wonderful. And here are some examples of ways that we are able to communicate with families using technology with certain translation apps and devices and some services. And if anyone has any questions for us.
Go ahead. All right. The other week we were talking about English learners and curriculum.
Yeah.
Was that this level or for the high school?
That was for the middle and high school. Those courses that we reviewed in that committee meeting are what you see listed here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good question. At what point can you weed these people out
Sure.
back into the general population without real assistance? You know?
So that's a
They
good
might
question.
need a little help, but once they get, if they started first grade, by third, fourth grade, they should be able to just.
So I should have stated that the last links has exit criteria. So once students reach proficiency, according to the last links assessment, then that helps us to determine.
So that criteria is, there are 4 sections of the last links: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And they have to have, the last link scores are given to us in a variety of ways. One is called the overall score. So in order to be exited from language services, you have to have a 4 overall, a 4 in reading, and a 4 in writing. And until you've achieved that, you will remain in English language services.
With supports.
With
So the
support, of
supports are designed based on their level of need as identified through that.
So if they're learning a 3,
Then
their need is
less than,
not less.
correct.
We really, if I got 17 kids starting first grade, by the time I get them up into middle school or something, they should be weeded out where we don't need as many special teachers as you would down below.
We have plenty of students who exit out of L services and demonstrate proficiency over time. But, Mr. Scully, as you know, students come and register in all
Oh, no,
particular
I
grades with
understand that.
varying amounts of
Yes.
proficiency. Some that speak very to little, no English, and then it runs the gamut. But yes, to your
Yeah.
point,
Because I think they would be learning better in an English class once they get halfway proficient in the English language than they would be going back and forth.
But the research of the last 25 years supports that you will have, or you can expect, an English learner to reach proficiency between 4 and 7 years. Do some kids reach it earlier? Do some kids need a little extra time? Of course.
It's
Yeah.
unfortunate. I'm all flat over it. And we had quite a few people come through the school systems. They would get help. And then they were not on their own. They would still have support. But they were really out there working because it was English at that time was the required language of the United States. And if you were going to vote or anything like that, you had to speak and read English. So many people went out and they really worked at it. And once they got into high schools, they were proficient. A lot of these people, you couldn't tell if they were born here or not.
Well, the goal of any of our programming is independence, so we're definitely with you on that.
I just, because I don't see the data changing on the number of students in the program.
So to build on both of their points, because I think we'd love to see data next time we talk about English learners that shows the ones that proficient out, compared to what I think Mr. Montini touched on is we all recognize this is a very transient community, that lots of people in Naugatuck are always coming in and moving. And so I think the state's wrong most of the time. And, they stopped this program by 9th grade. I'd wonder what your idea as the professionals here in Naugatuck is to help the 9th to 12th graders who moved here and need the support that they're not going to get because the state doesn't think they're important, and also be able to show us, the in and outs.
Well, it's just the bilingual program. Yeah. They still get lots of support, and that was also the impetus for creating those courses, was to provide all of that support. There aren't many districts that are engaging in that work the way that we are, and I'm very confident that that is going to be of great support to our students and teachers moving forward.
Yeah, that's just for clarification. We provide services to anyone who needs them in high school. It's that you're not mandated by that one law with the 20 after 9th grade. That's all. But yes, thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yes,
It's like,
Yes.
do better. And our community is very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, we don't leave anybody behind.
They get that push in and pull out support.
Yes.
Any other questions? Gonna have to go paperless. This is gonna do an automatic shutdown and restart at 9:15, folks, just so you know. So the next in the superintendent's report, Mrs. Mezzo, please, is going to share with you. We have, so as Mrs. Mezzo was walking up and getting ready, I thought it was important because we were talking in the finance committee about L positions. I'll make the budget presentation to you next week, and there are going to be some L positions that we would also share with you, the L programming as the foundation for making decisions based on need, of course. So something else that we are considering, which will also have some budgetary impact that I will get into in my budget presentation, is a new schedule proposal for City Hill for next year. And we have Mrs. Mezzo today that's here to share with the new schedule proposal with all of you folks.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for allowing me to come. I am excited to start thinking about just one more strategy. We have a multiple of strategies to address climate that I shared with you last time, and this is just another layer. So we can go right to the next page. So at City Hill Middle School, it's really the only time really in district where we house everybody from the district in one grade level at one time. So that can have some pretty interesting implications, especially at a time where our hormones are budding and we're just starting to come into our own and maybe value peers over authority and value peers maybe even over our educators and our parents. So we go from 4 elementary schools to 2 intermediate schools, and then we all come together in one large middle school. And I think as evidenced so beautifully by public comment, we're finding in this context that that is not ideal, especially this year. We're seeing more troublesome behaviors this year, and certainly more concerns overall. And I don't want to make light of it because it's extremely near and dear to my heart. I'm passionate about making City Hill a safe place. I think about it all the time. We're constantly working at it. So it's really important to me, and I applaud all those families that came out to share their concerns, because I too share their concerns and want to make sure that City Hill is the best it can be. So one strategy, in addition to the other things that we're thinking about, is trying to create a small size school feel in a large environment. So we are hoping that possibly we would expand upon our already team approach. We presently have 3 teams in our 6th grade, our 7th grade, and our 8th grade, and this proposal would add a 4th team, which would create a smaller size. We know that teaming has a host of benefits. It creates a sense of belonging. It also has research indicates it can help improve grades, and it can also drive up standardized achievement tests. And there's links there to that research. I did not bring data. I'll just preempt with that. I think at the last presentation in December, I had a folder full of data, so you can kind of reference that, or I can get it to you. You can go to the next one. So we have an opportunity this year. This wouldn't always be the case, but this year we have some key positions that are retiring, and that they are retiring in our English department. So with other contents, we can round out teams. So we presently at City Hill have 2 blocks of language arts and 2 blocks of math. You can go to the next slide. So all students receive 2 blocks of English language arts, with the exception of the students who take Spanish. Some students receive 2 blocks of mathematics. 1 block for everybody is the Common Core grade 8 math. The second block is an additional block. That might either be algebra for some, and it might be workshop, which is an intervention or a pre-teaching for others. That still leaves a group in the middle who are working online in math. We know that every time we put a real live teacher in front of students with instruction, it's much better than putting them in front of a computer. But in our current context, we cannot pull that off. We don't have enough math teachers. So my proposal for the second block, I'm sorry. That was the shortage that we spoke to before. Yeah, only some kids have a math teacher. I'm teasing. Yes, only the second block, we don't have enough teachers in front of them. Right. So our proposal, if you want to flip to the next, is that everybody would have 1 block of English language arts every day and 1 block of math. And then every other day, they would have a humanities and a STEM. These classes would provide an opportunity for some accelerated learning in an experiential way and some problem-based learning as well. So that was the proposal. And then we also want to bring back all of the things we had at City Hill pre-pandemic. We have been in a cohort model at City Hill, and it is our intent to revert back to our teams. Yes, the students would stay on the same team, but they would not stay in the same class with the same peers. You know, relational aggression is up. Yes, thank you. And we know that in preparing for this schedule, I did some additional research this weekend, and what I found was interesting, and that is that relational aggression is at its height sometimes when we ask a student to be with the aggressor all day long. And so if a student is targeted, they are now targeted from morning until they get back on the bus, because we're not switching and seeing different peers. We're also not opening up opportunities for them to have make different friends. And so that's been really problematic in our students, and our students are showing us. I think that the data is evident. They're showing us that they've had enough, and they need to go back to a time when middle school felt like middle school again. So we would bring back, this is the schedule that we had, this element anyway. One day, a day for the 7th graders would go into an additional rotation of specials. They get art enrichment, band, choir, health, world language. We can add a small period of creative cooking with our existing faculty, math puzzles, financial literacy, and STEM. And then on the other day, they can either work with their teachers on their team to catch up on work if they need it. If they're academically healthy and they're soaring, they can pick from a variety of different enrichments. These are some of the examples of enrichments that we offered at City Hill pre-pandemic. So we would bring those back again. And then I asked, I went into a couple of classrooms today and I just said, what do you guys think about this idea? Big applause. They loved it. They also gave me more ideas that I threw on. They said, what about a drama club? I said, that's great. So we're going to allow the students to choose. So one rotation of UA will be going through all of the different UA classes. The second will be an opportunity to choose what they really love. So we think that that will help with engagement. We think it will help with behaviors. So the advantage to adding a 4th team and dropping that second block of ELA for some of our students is that we now have true teams. We're not cross-teaming. This means less movement, increased supervision of hallways and lavatories. That's a must at City Hill. So that's one thing I was thinking of when we were creating this schedule. It also will help with improved relationships with students and families. We're going to reduce our caseload from about 115 to 85 students on a team. So that will certainly help with regards to supervision again, and those relationships that we know are important. We are going to get overall increased instructional time, 18 additional hours per year. We're going to get increased mathematics instruction to address the gap between ELA and math, which I referenced it at the December meeting, and I think it might still be on the board docs. We'll have 75 additional hours per year in math. Our students are not performing as well in math as they are in ELA. And then we get increased preparatory time for our teachers, 18 more individual and common prep planning time hours. So those are the advantages. Here are some disadvantages. I want to be transparent about that. It will be a smaller class size. Yes, thank you. We have some drawbacks. Every schedule has some drawbacks. You give up something. So we would have decreased instructional time in ELA. That comes out to be about 57 less hours. That means we're going to need to continue to integrate a nonfiction reading and writing routine in our content areas. We're already reading in science, we're reading in social studies. It is easier to integrate literacy skills in throughout the day than it is to put math where it doesn't really belong. So yes, I don't see it as a stretch because we do have a close reading in place already. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad that you saw that today. We also would need to, part of what I was looking at doing was looking at our retirees, but also looking at a potential reduction in force with one of our world language teachers. We presently have 2 world language teachers, which means that our 7th graders can come in and take Spanish 1. They can then take Spanish 2, and they arrive at the high school ready for Spanish 3. That was a luxury. I loved that. I wish we could do that again, and maybe in a different context, in a different place, that would come back again. But for right now, that's not the priority. The priority for us right now is twofold. First, it's safe and orderly and a positive climate. We have to get back to where we were. There was a time when that was the norm. I've been at City Hill for a while, and this is different. I'm not going to pretend that City Hill did not have behavioral problems. We will never have a middle school without some behavioral problems. That's what middle school students do. However, there's a level and there is an intensity that we want to ensure that we maybe de-escalate or diffuse. So our students now will only be afforded the opportunity to get a credit in Spanish 1. They will then have to move into the high school and start with Spanish 2.
I'm gonna, if you don't mind, interrupt once again. The Spanish 2 really was a luxury because we don't offer anything beyond Spanish 5. So if they were entering freshman year at 3, they would do 3, 4, and 5, and then have nothing senior year. So by still taking Spanish 1 and getting high school credit for it, they can still get to Spanish 5 at the high school and not lose anything by that Spanish, right? So you're reallocating a Spanish class and reprioritizing by getting either a math or an ELA teacher based on need.
Correct. We had, I think we probably had 3. I know exactly what we have. We have 3 classes of students that took Spanish 1. So we filled those about 28. So we're just under 60. Yeah.
Oh, it's the same. So, okay. Yeah. Is it the last slide?
The last slide, I think, is just asking, that might be the last slide. I think I hit a slide, but the slide, there was one slide that just said that there were, I put the bell schedule side by side in their folders if they wanted to take a peek.
Right. So, because what ends up happening is
proposal.
In your bell schedules, when you look at the comparison, you go down by 1 period. So that extra 7 minutes tacks on to each of the other period. So you went from an 8-period day to a 7-period day. So the period goes closer to, I believe it's 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's 50 minutes. I also want to point out one more thing, that right now, the way we are running lunches, we're going into only one team can go into the cafeteria at a time. That's, again, a pandemic protocol. We would now be allowing all of our students to eat in the cafeteria. and we expanded our lunch waves from 2 lunch waves to 4 lunch waves so that we can reduce movement. We can safely get our students from their classroom to the cafeteria, and we can manage the cafeteria and ensure that there aren't any problems there too. So just a lot of thought again to creating a safe and orderly and a positive climate with this particular schedule. If I can just give one more plug, can I do that?
Yes, of course.
I heard the parents tonight, so we will have our 4th parent forum in which I welcome anyone who has some concerns for City Hill. Then we can really devote some time to talk about that. This one has a spotlight on bullying, but we'll be talking about aggression and any other concerns, and that is Tuesday night between 6 and 7. And then anybody who wants to join us, we have a family escape room right after that. So.
Great, don't leave because there might be questions.
Yep.
I would guess there's going to be. I will talk at the budget presentation around the budgetary impact, but just to sort of set the stage for that, this requires 2 additional content teachers. So in this scenario, if you were on the finance committee and you remember me presenting a new health teacher, well, they can get more health via that new elective block. So we're going to repurpose that. I'm going to propose to you folks as part of the budget to repurpose that health position that I was going to use for Alliance for one of those teachers. We already have the other teacher that's funded as a class size teacher via the ESSER and ARP. So it's 2 teachers that we would add, one this year via Alliance, and then next year have to make a determination on that other teacher, which I'm hoping would be an increase in Alliance, and we would cover it at no additional cost. Again, and that would all for the benefits of smaller class size, a smaller ratio in terms of caseload, an opportunity to bring back some of the extracurricular things that middle school kids live for, and all the other things that Mrs. Mezzo talked about. So I'll stop.
I just wanted to say thank you. Not only does that plan sound good to me, but I like that you said things that were goal-oriented, research-based. I heard buy-in from the community behind you, and you acknowledge things that are going on in your school, and you always have a plan when we talk, and I really appreciate that in you, and I think I speak for the board when they say that we appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Mr. McCall, that was really well said. Thank you. Now I can look back at the agenda. So recovery services. Our Director of Special Education, Special Services, Mrs. Nicole Reichart.
Yes, thank you. So this is just a memo. It's kind of a preliminary update. So in May, towards the end of last school year, the State Department of Education gave us that link with a long title that gave us guidance in how to determine if recovery services are required for students with disabilities. So we know that students with disabilities may have been more impacted by this pandemic and by disruptions to learning than their non-disabled peers. And so this guidance really helped us to kind of conceptualize how to make decisions about how our students were impacted. So currently we are still in the data collection process. And when I say we, I mean our teams. So we prioritize, and you can scroll down, I'm in the current progress. Thank you. We prioritized, you, the board, the Naugatuck Public Schools prioritized our most vulnerable learners for in-person learning during the 2021 school year. But even with that being said, we know that, as I mentioned, some students may not have made adequate progress. And that's really the progress that they would have been expected to make through their individualized plan. So teams will be needing to determine if recovery services are required. Those decisions are made individually based on individual student need at PPTs. And once the need for recovery services are determined, then the team will have to decide how those services are delivered. So that could be during the school day. Teams will have to, again, individually decide what that child's programming will look like and how those services will be made up. So this is a preliminary one option that we are going to be engaging in, which is varsity tutors. It is a virtual tutoring that students could participate in virtually by certified teachers. This would be outside of the school day. They would schedule it with the student and their family. They would collaborate with the child's special education teacher, report progress to the school and family, and this would be recommended by the PPT. Obviously, this a virtual learning may not be appropriate for many students. There are some students who can successfully recover services in this way. So PPTs, who are the best suited to make those decisions, would be having the availability to recommend that. Obviously, we continue to look for ways to provide recovery services. We continue to collect data and make sure that we are closely monitoring any learning loss that our students have had, any progress that they haven't made that we would have expected that they would have made. I will say that many of our students made satisfactory progress and mastered IEP goals and objectives. I was thrilled to see that because I have been very, very concerned, but we do have some students who that's not the case for. Questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Reichert.
That brings us to monthly reports. Student reports.
Do you mind doing it from the podium? Because I have a feeling it's going to be difficult to hear, and the mic there would probably, or take the mic back with you if you want to take it out. Thank you.
So, Naugatuck High School students have begun the course selection progress for the 2022 to 2023 school year. Counselors have been encouraging students to review their completed courses and to decide on classes to enroll in for the upcoming school year. Each student will be receiving individualized meeting with their counselors to ensure that all students are enrolling in classes that challenge them but also interest them while meeting graduation requirements. Current upperclassmen are recording video presentations of past APs that they have taken to encourage students to seek opportunities and to reach representative demographics in advanced placement courses. And with the start of the second semester, juniors have begun their first semester of college and career readiness seminar. We hope to have updates on student feedback in the next month's report.
Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to give you some updates on the high school as well as Cross Street. So the first one involves both. On January 24th, the Naugatuck High School Sunrise Movement Hub was able to send about 25 students into the Cross Street Intermediate School classrooms to give lessons and participate in activities regarding the climate crisis and climate action. Feedback on the trip from students, teachers from both Cross Street and the high school was overwhelmingly positive. And we have 2 more trips over the course of the year scheduled. So we have one in March and then the next one in May. So we're all looking forward to that. And this Friday, tomorrow, high school students will take part in the first Student Equity Board meeting where leaders from the 5 social justice clubs, GSA, the Black Student Union, Young Feminists, Diversify, and NHS Sunrise will present their current projects as well as kind of try to figure out a collaborative project between all 5. So there will be representatives from each of those, but all are welcome for that. If you could just scroll down a little bit. Thank you. From Angelina Pires, who is our student liaison for Cross Street Intermediate School, we have some updates just on student life. Cross Street students are participating at a kindness challenge that uses various activities such as kindness posters and a kindness chain to promote empathetic behaviors and positive interactions with peers. The 5th and 6th graders have also been working on poems for school-wide poetry contests, which I believe is their poems are being displayed around the school. And a Pennyworth competition is being held to raise money for the Naugatuck Animal Shelter and local homeless shelter. And finally, Cross Street is hosting a diaper and wipes drive where all donations will be given to the Connecticut Partnership for Children. So that's some things that the 5th and 6th graders are involved in at Cross Street. And then finally, we know that we have the Cross Street report from Angelina. But for other liaisons, due to COVID and weather complications, the other student liaisons have had difficulty meeting with their student leaders. So we hope to have updates from them in next month's report. Thank you.
Do you just have the time for your high school equity board for the community?
So that is tomorrow after school at 2 p.m. Yep. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, guys.
Marilyn, point of order. Without objection from any of the other board members, I motion to treat the rest of the monthly reports as a consent agenda and just accept them in the sake of time.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll take the next, which if you don't mind. So we are now in old business. Last month, I brought to you an update based on the law to an update based on the changes in the law around some of the definitions related to bullying, some of the training. Brought it first to the policy committee and then to the board last week. Just as a reminder, new training went into effect. We posted the training on our website as we communicated. We ensured that the school climate teams, et cetera, are in place. Those are always in place at the beginning of the year. Mrs. Grant had asked us how we communicate that out. The schools communicate that out to their individual schools. We are going to be in the near future having a page dedicated to that where all of those liaisons or the school-based specialists are listed on a website. I believe if we end up changing our website to a separate vendor, they would be ready for launch over the summer. So those were some of the questions that were asked, I believe, of me. If there's no other questions, I'll ask for a motion to approve the policy as recommended.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? With that, we move on to new business.
Great. So new business, and I'll continue to take this. I reached out to the policy chair, Mrs. Grant, and asked if I could just put a really minor policy up to the board without going to policy. We're going to have a policy meeting since we have a lot to talk about in the near future. I think we scheduled it for the 23rd of February, but we'll get that out to the board. So what we have for you now is an update, basically just that adds, it actually ties right into what Mrs. Broder was saying earlier in her public comment. It changes the policy to allow certain disinfectants as a result of the pandemic. So really our policy is just being codified into what's permissible by law. That's the only change, what you see in blue there. You're not voting. There's no motion. If you have any, we'll vote next.
I was just going to clarify that the disinfectants are just the adults bringing in disinfectants, not the students.
This is true, although we do have students in the upper grades use a wipe to wipe something down, but no, as a matter of fact, we don't even have anyone bring it in, we supply it.
All right.
Yeah, we don't want to get into that. And with the green cleaning, I turn it back over to you, Madam Vice Chair.
Okay, our next one is mask wearing, and before there's any discussion, I'd like to turn it over to Chairman Licky.
Okay, so I haven't been doing much talking, so I'm going to try to read my remarks regarding this and then have a discussion. So the issue of masks is not an easy one. There are many strong opinions on both sides, and I've always said that our policies and plans are adaptable and able to change with the metrics and the guidance. Earlier this week, the governor announced he would let local districts and officials decide on mask guidelines in schools. My goal has always been to keep our students, staff, and community health healthy and safe, and that will always remain my goal. It is my hope that parents and the community would continue to take preventive measures to stop the spread of COVID. We know much more about the virus than we did in the past, and we are better equipped to tackle it. I do believe in the parents' choice in deciding what is right for their child and their family. It is my understanding the state legislature is discussing this topic over the next couple days, and I believe that if and when the governor's mask mandate is no longer in place, that we should become mask optional. If this happens, I ask the community to remain cognizant and aware of how you are feeling and take every precaution to fight COVID and any other illness you may have. We want to continue to keep our schools healthy, and we will continue to use the tools at our disposal to do just that. As we move forward, we must also remember that there are some spaces where masks may be required by the federal government, such as school buses, which is considered public transportation. As I said earlier, there are many strong opinions on both sides, and I believe that masks are one tool in helping prevent the spread of COVID, and I hope that we can all come together as a community to support one another and respect each other's personal decisions and work together to bring this pandemic to an end. If there's discussion, I'm open to making a motion. So my motion would be, so my motion would be that, I motion that if the state mask mandate for schools is eliminated, that our policies and plans will state that masking is optional, except in cases of quarantining, isolation, or where required by state or federal law. And this would take effect on the date that the state mask mandate for schools is no longer in place. As, like I said, the legislature is discussing it, so I don't know what they may decide to vote on or not.
So before we get a second, and that would go to a vote, my thought when discussing this, that we would separate choice into three categories. And the reason I thought and talked to some people about separating the three categories is because of the ever-changing landscape, the fact that the legislator is talking about it right now. And so if we let your motion pass without a second, I could offer you three motions that separate students, staff, and guests to Naugatuck Public Schools, which would allow us more flexibility and change over time if things change, and not have to make the decision for everyone always lumped together, that we could make the right decisions if the rules change for adults but not for children but not adults, and that way we're not lumping all of our policies together in a way that forces us to have more special sessions in the future.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment? Do you mind?
Yes.
Thank you. My preference would be, and this is just my opinion, would be to not do the guests, except for here, right? So this is different, but guests to the schools with children in the visitor policies, I prefer to be able to evaluate and discuss with you separately. That's my only opinion on that. That's all that I'll share with everyone else. As for the vote, it really, my opinion is it doesn't make a difference, but my assumption is we're going to, whatever we do for one, we're doing for the other in regards to teachers and for students, unless you want to separate it out. So that's again, my opinion.
So my only thought process on separating it is currently in this state, there's a state employee requirement that evaporates at the end of the month. And that is a separate issue. And the legislators even talking about it today as separate issues. And so if they decide different things, even if we pass two policies with the same wording today, it allows us to amend one later without having to amend both of them. And we could just do the two policies. And I brought copies of what I might have to everyone if you want to look at them.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what he has to say, but I'd also like to just kind of open up my concerns. You know, we heard from a lot of people today, and they spoke very passionately, and I was very moved by several of them. And you know, when I took the oath to be on this board, I made a promise that I would be unbiased. That means I'd listen to, you know, both sides of the story. And we definitely had a dominant side today. We heard from 23 people today. But I just want to remind everybody on the board that the most passionate person that moved you tonight, there is an equal passionate person on the other side of this topic. My only concern is if they weren't able to attend and they didn't have the time to write an email, which I read every email that was sent to us, some of them multiple times, some of them were very well written, and again, moved me, made me think. I want to continue to make my promise that I made when I joined this board to be unbiased and to listen to both sides. My only concern is if we make a vote tonight, we haven't heard from both sides. My proposal was to put out a survey to both staff and to parents to get the majority of how people feel, because I don't want to just base it on the people that were brave enough to come here tonight or had the time and the foresight to write us an email, because there's other people. That's a small percentage of the people that we represent. We represent over 30,000 people in this community, and we represent over 5,000 families, or almost 5,000 families in the public school system. So my only concern is we heard from about 30.
So, Jason, to that point, because I thought you would have that concern. Like the superintendent sends us an update every Sunday that has the COVID data for 100,000. I did a blow up today for just this session, not excluding all people who've talked to us on either side before this Sunday. But since this Sunday to us, emails and public comment here tonight included, we'd per 100,000 people, we've heard from 200 people to leave masks alone, 2,000 people to give them back to choice, and 50 people to ask more questions. And that's how he presents the COVID data to us every week per 100,000.
Wait, you're saying that the COVID data indicates to you that people want masks or don't want masks?
No, I'm saying the COVID data he shares with us every week is a blown up proportion and not accurate to what's actually going on in our district, because they add it per 100,000. There's not 100,000 people in Naugatuck. There's not 100,000 people in our public health district. There's 35,000 people in here. We service about just over 4,000 students. And per the last census, that's 1.9 parents per household, or 1.9 kids per household, which means about 2,000 parents. So I did the percentages and blew it up per 100,000, just like they do with the COVID data, to make it easier to understand who talked to us. 200 people said, leave the mandates as they are. 2,000 people then said, please give us choice. And 50 people said, ask more questions.
Well, good. Then you'll have no problem with us doing a survey.
I'm saying that the majority of people asked for choice.
I agree with you on that survey.
I agree with Jason.
Yeah, I agree with Jason.
I agree with Jason.
We've had 2 years for you guys to all ask questions for people. I've been coming for 2 years to talk to you about it.
You said we're going to discuss it.
I
so
know,
let's-
that's what I'm saying.
Right, so this is our opinion.
And
I
if we're-
think that we should do what Jason says, get an opinion from a survey. Yeah.
Guys, just remember,
From
it's one
our
at a
survey.
time, one at a time.
With the survey, how do we make sure that the responses we are getting, I'm sorry. With the survey, how do we make sure that the responses we are getting are then representative of the town?
Yeah, that's a very good question. You know, right now we have access to staff and we have access to parents. And unfortunately, that is probably the biggest chunk of data that we're going to receive. We could maybe put out to the paper what their opinion is for the whole community, but I think it's more important that we get the opinion of the stakeholders.
So I to that point, you just, sorry. To that point, we have heard from, we have emails that have been sent to us this week. Those are all, if we go ahead and send out a survey, I already know, ask any principal what your problem is with your parents. Ask what it is. It's lack of involvement. And we're going to have the same problem. We're basically putting ourselves out to having exactly the same problem because there are many parents that are not willing to fill out the survey. How many surveys have you guys done? What about the ESSER funds? When you actually did the survey, how many people actually answered? So that is going to be a problem as well, because you may not get a very true feeling for what everyone wants. And yes, I understand what everyone is trying to say. We want to protect kids. But at this point in the game, we are 2 years in. There are therapeutics that are available. There are vaccines that are available. There are boosters that are available. There are N95s that are available, not for children, but they are available for adults. And I think that it's time to go ahead and give the reins back to the parents as far as our health concerns on our children are concerned. And I think that's the other reason why we wanted to go ahead and separate it out between staff and guests and students, is because students are actually getting mental. We discussed in another board meeting that there are mental health issues that are happening right now with our students. We have an urgency of getting those children back to normal. There is an urgency for it. So adults have agency. They can speak for themselves. They can speak up. They can take care of themselves. Children cannot. We are their agency. So we must do right by them. That is what we are here for. So I respectfully, I agree with a survey to a point, because I think we are just kicking the can down the road, which is what Lamont did in the first place. If we're all honest, we all know he just kicked it down the road for us. So we look like the bad guys, but we're not. We actually care about the kids, and we know our kids. We know our parents. We know that they care about their kids. And I think that they have enough to handle it. Okay. Okay.
I still think that, like you said, parents, need to make the choice for their children. Then why not have the survey? Because it's the parents who will be surveying. You can survey the students and the teachers. But that to me would be the way to go.
Well, I also agree with both of you. I agree with Alicia, like we haven't had the greatest response from surveys. I agree. But I still want to give parents the
Right.
opportunity to tell us how they feel.
Just because they haven't answered, you don't take away the privilege of answering the survey.
Right. I just
Yeah.
want to give them the opportunity to tell us how they feel.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily, it may not sway anybody's vote here.
Exactly, but you need to know their
But I want to
thoughts,
give
the
both
opportunity.
parents and staff the opportunity to at least tell us how they feel. I don't mind if we're coming back again of the week of the 23rd. If we had to do a special vote that week,
Exactly.
I would be okay with that. If we're concerned about the time frame, I don't want to kick it down the curb. I just need a short amount of time to verify the people that I made a commitment to, that I would hear their voice.
Exactly.
That's all. And keep one other thing in mind, because we're going to talk. Everybody's kind of giving their opinions here. I wanted to have my chance to give mine. I want you guys to just think about something like masks weren't designed to protect the student wearing the mask. The masks were designed to protect other people. When the medical field started requiring masks to be worn, it was to protect the patient, not the doctor. Think about, you guys are all, there's so many good parents in this community. And when you have good parents in the community, I want you to just think about a simple policy. It's not written, and it was way before COVID. But if your son or daughter coughs or sneezes, you ask them to cover their mouth or cover their face. You're not doing that to protect your child. You're doing that as a courtesy to the people around, because we all know coughing and sneezing spreads germs. So all I'm saying is, I don't want to get this wrong. If we got anything else wrong, I just don't want to get this wrong. And I hate masks. I hate wearing them. I hate that students are wearing them. I hate that our teachers are wearing them. I do feel like it affects education, but at the same time, you're asking parents to make a choice, but the choice that they make affects other families. And that's the problem that I have. I would have given them the choice months ago if the choices that they make didn't affect other families. Just like the cough or the sneeze, it doesn't affect that child. It affects the child where the sneeze or the cough lands on. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to keep it simple. But again, my commitment is pretty valid. I try to be unbiased. I want to hear from the people that, I want to hear from all the people, not just the people that agree with me.
Aaron?
So a couple of your points there. If we gave choice to the parents in a survey the day after it went into effect, we would know how the parents felt because their children would come into school masked or unmasked because it would be their choice. Second, you've had 2 years to come up with the data to show the burden. If I asked you today to prove that masks are effective or not effective, we could get it wrong, and it's okay to get it wrong. We've been getting it wrong for 2 years. Every parent who's come up here and given public comment for months and months have given you data and science, real science, accepted by the CDC now, about how these don't work. And it's okay if you disagree with that. It's gotten very political from the beginning, and I respect your choice. And if we had choice, and I sat, and you didn't want to sit next to me because I was not going to wear a mask, I would go sit over there out of respect for you. But the choice is what we need back. And that's the survey, because this board has kicked the can on talking and voting on these issues, meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And we have real work to do. Do we want another public comment that lasts over an hour because we're going to talk about COVID violence another time?
Anyone else?
So I know we want to go ahead and survey a lot of adults, but I would also counter that a lot of adults have had a lot to say. And also we're going to go ahead and talk about teachers. Teachers have a union and they have been surveyed, and the union actually has that information. So I understand the survey and I agree with it, but I do have concerns that it may not be well attended, that it may not be well indicative of the dynamics of the Naugatuck school system. And I do believe that there are other states in this country that have mask optional, and now even neighboring towns. And actually, I just found out yesterday, I was absolutely blown over. I didn't know that in Connecticut, there are schools that are entire schools, Catholic schools, that are running without masks at all. And they're thriving, they're doing great, but they're under a different jurisdiction. And I of course, honor this jurisdiction. And of course, we want to go ahead and honor our state and our laws. But I think it is time, after 24 months, to go ahead and give back the choice to the parents. There are people that are advocating for teachers. There are people that are advocating for other sex in this town. But there is no one advocating for our children, and that is our job. So we must do that. That is our order. That is our vow.
And I appreciate you saying that. My only other concern, and I'll pretty much stop at this, because I don't want to put it like I'm so against it. I'm not. I would love for us to get rid of masks, but I have a commitment to this community, and I just want the opportunity to uphold that commitment. Bridgeport Superintendent, Bridgeport, New Haven, they're going to continue their mask mandate till the end of the year. I think there is some value to time, because as the pandemic decreases, I think that could be helpful. But my bigger problem is I just want to make sure we have that we at least give the opportunity, even if they don't participate. We at least give them the opportunity to have one more shot before we make our decision to tell us what they want us to do. It may, like I said, it may not sway us. It may not even give us more information. All I'm asking is that we just give the community the chance to respond. And if they don't respond, well, then it's on them. And then we make our decision based on the information we already have.
I just feel like after 2 years and 4 months of me pushing it on the agenda, we have given them the opportunity. I put out and paid for a statement that I boosted because I have the ability to do that on Facebook, a statement telling people to come out and talk tonight to us. It's been viewed fully through 2 minutes over 400 times in Naugatuck. And that was only up for 1 day. Nobody else takes the initiative or the opportunity or the resources they have to reach out to this community and be transparent to it. So let's work on education and give choice back to the parents.
I think we are trying to be transparent by saying we need to include the parents, the teachers, and the students. And the teachers' unions, they actually want to keep the mask. So now, when are you talking about, what are you saying, that you want us to take off the mask like immediately? Or are you going to wait until the governor's
the motion I would bring
expiration?
would read as of March 1st, 2022.
Well, isn't that when the governor right now is saying that the masks are.
With the lack of policy, Chris gets to do whatever he wants.
Yes, but I mean, we could always set a deadline. We could always set a deadline. So, I mean, I don't understand why we're going through all of this. Why don't we just wait?
Because every time I want to bring it up, you want to wait.
Exactly. Wait for the governor.
Well,
We're the CDC. It's scheduled.
Guys,
it's
one at a
scheduled
time,
to
one
end.
at a time, one at a
It's
time,
scheduled
please.
to end February 28th. So,
Mrs. Grant, Madam Chair, may I jump in? Yeah, Mrs. Grant, just for clarification, they're proposing, their proposal and the motion that's on the floor is that when the time comes, when the authority shifts from the governor to the local decision makers, this body, the proposal and the motion on the floor is to make it optional, effective when the governor mandate comes to an end. Mr. Licky's motion doesn't have a date certain like March 1st, in case, just for clarification, the executive order ends on the 15th. His original proposal was going to extend to the 28th. And now there's other legislation that's being passed, that's not being passed, excuse me, that's being discussed that might push it to the end of the year. So you as a board we have been under executive order in regards to masks. This is the first opportunity because the governor has said, you know what, I'm shifting the decision-making from executive order to local districts.
Right.
So folks are proposing it now in anticipation of the transfer of power, for lack of a better term, just for clarification. I have a question for the board members, if it's okay. I know this is your deliberation. My only question is, what are you going to do with the survey results? If the survey results come back mixed, how would that impact you if they came back 50-50, I wonder?
I think it would just give parents the opportunity to speak. I mean,
I guess I could share with you. I'll share. I'm going to share. I have some.
And I want to respond real quick.
This is your discussion. I'm going to stop.
he's going to say it again.
Ms. Grant, and I'm going to try to say this very respectfully.
Please.
I think, given the opportunity, you would never vote on this. You don't want to make a decision. You don't want to tell us how you feel, and you don't feel like you're qualified, or for whatever reasons. You've said lots of things. If it was left up to you, you would kick the can forever and let other people make the decision.
We
So
really
point
aren't
of
supposed to
order.
make this personal.
Right. So point of order. I
Yeah.
think that what will need to happen is that you make your comments through the board chair.
Right.
So she'll call on you. You make your comments through the board chair, even if they're in response to another board member. However, my point of order is not so much that, because we haven't talked about that. It's 10:01. And by policy, we need a motion with 2/3 majority to continue past 10 o'clock by your own board bylaws. So someone would need to make a motion to continue.
Point of order?
Yep.
And I apologize. I know you're trying to help clarify. We currently have a major motion on the floor with a first, no second, but it has not failed. We pause for discussion, and no other major motion may be made until we finish this current major motion.
I agreed, except you have a policy that says you can't go past 10 without.
We have a major motion on the floor per Robert's Rules of Order and our bylaws. We must finish this major motion. We can't, the major motion has to drop or go through before we can move on.
So.
And while I appreciate your input, Superintendent, you may not speak, this is a board
Yeah,
I'll
defer to the chair.
Listen,
I
I think we all
received
need to learn
permission.
to be respectful to one another, okay?
I'm fine with not following the board policy. I simply was pointing out that it is your policy that you need a vote after 10 o'clock.
Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second Mr. Lucky's motion.
Okay.
It's now open for
Open for discussion?
Okay, I got something to throw in on that. I have no problem with removing the masks. At the time, it's legal for us to remove the mask. Because number one, we just spent money to degerm all these rooms with the noise you're hearing out and back. It removes 95% or better of any bacterias. So there's no problem. The only thing is the legitimacy of the vote. If the governor changes his mind and it's not at the end of the month and it's a month afterwards, we have to live by it. There's no questions. If we put an earlier deadline, we have to go by, we could be responsible for what's going on. That's it.
And so that is why in my motion, I did say if.
Yeah.
If the
I can
mandate. Yep. So my motion was that if the state mask mandate for schools is eliminated, that our policies and plans will state that masking is optional, except in cases of quarantining, isolation, or when required by state or federal law, and that it would not go into effect until that mandate is eliminated.
Tenzin, you have something?
Point of order, and I apologize, Madam Chair, but now that we have a second, the discussion is only for the 9 voting members. Robert's Rules of Order, the newest edition, page.
Is there any other discussion? With that, we can go to a vote. All those in favor?
Point of order, Madam Chair. If there's no more discussion, may I just ask for a roll call vote?
Yes. Jay Solozzi? We'll come back to you. Mr. McCool?
Aye.
Mr. Scully?
Aye.
Mrs. Malone?
Aye.
Aye for me.
I'll say nay.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
That motion passes.
So I just want to make a comment before we move on. Right, I recognize that this is not an easy decision. It's like I said earlier, there's emotions on both sides. And our goal is to support our students and our staff to make sure that they do have a healthy and safe and respectable place where they come to learn, where they feel safe and secure and respected each and every single day, that we respect each other's decisions, whether someone chooses to wear a mask or chooses not to wear a mask, that we respect that, and that we do everything to help each other and keep everyone safe. And I thank everyone for their comments. Like I said, it's not easy, but the work that we do is not always easy, and we make tough decisions. And at the end of the day, I know that we're all here for our students, that we all care, and we're all here to make a difference and do what we can. So.
Okay, if we're going to keep this meeting going, we must take a vote now to keep it going. Otherwise, it's going to. So does anybody have any more business that they'd like to be discussed and would like to put up a?
I'll motion that we finish the meeting so we don't have to come back into session at another time to finish it.
Second.
Any discussion?
Aye.
Okay, can we get the approval of the minutes?
Second.
Approved by Ms. Makowski, second by Mr. McCool. Next would be communications.
All
The
in
honor-
favor? All in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
As a consent agenda? Aye. Motion to adjourn?
Wait.
No, we got more.
Wait.
I'll be quick. It's quick. It's going to be quick. So the National Honor Society has invited you to their induction ceremony, May 12th, 2022 at 6 p.m. I know a few of you go every year. That's wonderful. We put out a press release. It's in a press release in regards to K registration, right? So we're going to start our kindergarten registration at our schools soon. And it was attached. Oh, you know what? I'm not logged in. That's okay. The budget development calendar is there. As you know, I'll present next week at a workshop. I'll present the budget to you next Thursday, the 17th. And then I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, for board communication.
Any board communications?
Yeah, I have a couple of things, a couple of shout outs, or maybe 3 shout outs. This is to 2 students at Western Elementary who were chosen as 2022 Outstanding Arts Awards recipients by the Connecticut Association of Schools. Anya Nade for music and Caitlin Abner for art. And then shout out to the girls indoor track. They won the NVL crown under the leadership of Coach Roper. And 2 standouts, Lily Jason and Allison Murphy. And one other thing, the school cheer team took home gold in their co-ed division at the 3rd annual Ludlow Cheer Open. So congratulations to all of the students.
Without any more, anybody else?
I just want to say thank you, Ms. Grant, for always having something from the community. I do appreciate that.
With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
With that, we're adjourned.